Inside a dark cave, an axe's sharp sound echoed off the rock walls. A white-haired young man stopped, noticing glowing blue droplets from a ceiling crack. His eyes widened with excitement. He'd finally found what he sought. Carefully, he placed a bottle beneath the glowing drops. The mysterious liquid was ink. Relieved, he thanked his small black cat, Nero, knowing he couldn't have found it without him. His gaze shifted to the cave entrance. This ink could finally get him into the pioneering core. Hopeful, he exited the cave. Outside, a vast gray wasteland stretched. A massive glowing metropolis stood in the distance. Inside, cheers erupted as elite colorists with vibrant hair paraded. Two citizens excitedly discussed the team's latest giant creature defeat. As long as such heroes existed, the city remained safe, yet the gloomy Shadow District's atmosphere was starkly different. A crowd gathered before a building posting C-Rank Pioneering Corps exam results. The notice stated, "Anyone with color may apply." Suddenly, a white-haired young man was thrown out, crashing to the ground. Two examiners looked down. One harshly declared, "This place isn't for you," suppressing his frustration. Kay stood, raising the blue ink bottle. He demanded an explanation, insisting the ink proved his qualifications. The examiner pointed, revealing the truth. Kay was rejected for being colorless. In this world, roles are birth-determined. The examiner mocked Kay for not knowing his place. A red-haired examiner then unleashed a wave of red energy, branding him accursed colorless. Kay staggered back, groaning as the energy hit him. From the stairs, the examiner proudly detailed the pioneer's role. Only chosen individuals like himself deserved that title. Beyond the city lay the Black Lands, a deadly region of dangerous creatures. Pioneers risked their lives exploring, gathering resources, protecting humanity. They were treated as heroes. His cold gaze returned to Kay. A colorless person could never become one. Kay was ordered to accept reality, return to a lowly job. After a final threat, doors slammed shut. Left alone, Kay lowered his head. A soft sound came from his jacket. Nero poked his head out. Kay gently patted him, saying they could always try elsewhere. Rejections like this were nothing new. Though the disappointment clearly hurt, he forced a smile, promising one day to be the world's greatest colorist. Nero was quickly hidden again to avoid attracting attention. Kay walked through the industrial district, pondering his next move. He still hoped for acceptance. A green-haired man watched silently from above. Later, Kay stopped at a crowded plaza, opening his notebook. Another location was crossed off, the page already full of rejections. With no places left, he sighed deeply, exhausted, options dwindling. Eventually, he stopped at Mary Workshop. Muttering no choice, he pushed open the door, calling for the owner. Inside, a white-haired girl, goggles lifted, greeted him with a bright smile. Mary immediately saw Kay's gloomy face, guessing he'd failed again. When Nero jumped onto the table, she warmly greeted the cat too. Mary tried to encourage him, saying examiners were blind to his talent, but Kay stayed discouraged. He questioned the value of his abilities if no one accepted a colorless person. Mary firmly disagreed. She argued Kay's repeated returns from the Black Lands, alive, proved his ability. Kay downplayed it, insisting most credit went to Nero. Changing the subject, he placed a bottle of blue ink on the table, asking if she wanted to buy it. Mary's eyes immediately lit up. She paid a high price, pouring the blue liquid into the pipes, complaining about ink's scarcity and cost. Watching, Kay understood the demand for more pioneers. The ink shortage was becoming critical. The workshop's machines showed the city depended on that colored liquid. Kay remained silent, frustrated no core would accept him. Seeing his reaction, Mary repeated her suggestion. Kay hesitated. The place felt far beyond him, but Mary slammed a flyer onto the table, insisting he take every opportunity. It was a recruitment notice for the S-Rank Dawn Pioneering Corps. What caught Kay's attention was the requirement. The entrance exam was open to everyone, judging applicants purely on ability. Kay stared at the flyer, shocked. He'd always avoided S-Rank Corps, certain he'd fail. He couldn't believe a place of that caliber would acknowledge his skills. Mary encouraged him, saying if the evaluation was skill-based, this was his chance. With a gentle smile, she reminded him becoming a colorist was his lifelong dream. A memory flashed through Kay's mind. As a child, he stood alone in the rain, holding Nero tightly. That dream never faded. Mary's assurance of constant support made Kay smile. He gripped the flyer firmly, deciding to stop doubting himself. With renewed determination, Kay left the workshop. Walking through the Shadow District's quiet alleys, his thoughts focused on the upcoming exam and its preparation. Then Nero suddenly reacted to something behind them. From the darkness, a relaxed voice. The green-haired man, Kay's earlier watcher, appeared, staff with glowing green orb. He aimed it at Kay's back. A green energy blade shot out. Kay turned, surprised, but too late. The attack struck him. He cried out, collapsing. The green-haired man and his assistant stood over him. The attacker mocked. "Your death is only a matter of time." Covered in blood, Kay heard the cold truth. Nobody cared if a colorless person died. With his last strength, Kay called Nero, forcing the cat to flee. His consciousness faded. He awoke in an industrial ink waste site. A green-haired man smiled, grabbing Kay's collar, lifting him over a massive sludge tank. Mocking, he explained the ink waste could dissolve anything without a trace. Terrified, Kay struggled, demanding an explanation. The man finally revealed the truth. Their target wasn't Kay, but the creature hiding in his jacket. A creature capable of following humans was extremely rare. Calling Nero a valuable treasure, the man tightened his grip. Behind him, the assistant raised a small cage, Nero trapped inside. The frightened cat cried desperately. Kay stared in horror, grabbing the man's collar, begging him to release Nero. The attacker sneered. He declared such a valuable creature shouldn't belong to a colorless person, planning to sell Nero for immense black market profit. Kay was easily overpowered, his body lifted as the man squeezed his throat. Nearing unconsciousness, Kay blamed himself for his lapse. He'd endured rejection his whole life, but losing Nero, his only family, was unacceptable. A surge of anger erupted within him. Kay tightened his grip on the man's arm. The attacker fell silent, arrogance turning to shock. Green energy hissed from his body, flowing into Kay's hand. The man screamed, something forcibly ripped away. Terrified, he threw Kay into the poisonous ink waste. Annoyed, he dismissed the incident. Nero's desperate cries echoed from the cage. The criminals declared they were about to get rich. Ignoring the cat's tears, he headed for the black market. Deep in the black liquid, Kay watched the light fade. Nero's cries grew more distant. He tried to move, his body wouldn't respond. Memories flashed through his mind. Would his story truly end in this dark pit? He saw a younger self holding Nero tightly. Then something vital, a promise he had to keep. He couldn't give up yet. In the darkness, a mysterious voice questioned his inaction. Confused, Kay asked, "Who is it?" Instantly, giant words appeared, "Accept." Thoughts flooded his mind. The voice urged, "Save Nero, embrace your true color, reclaim your power." Kay, a hand emerged from swirling black liquid. The darkness around him faded. Kay looked down, his hands glowed with black energy. He was confused. He realized he was standing within the ink. Memories fragmented, he focused on what truly mattered. He was a shadowy silhouette with glowing white eyes. Kay wondered what had happened. A faint whimper broke the silence. Kay looked up, seeing two blurry figures holding a small cage. Inside, Nero cried. Kay's mind cleared instantly. Nothing else mattered. He had to save Nero. A dark hand stretched. Then massive black energy erupted from the depths. The green-haired man and his assistant screamed, horrified by the disposal pit. The deadly ink pool vanished. Only a dark figure stood at the bottom, slowly stepping forward. A terrifying aura spread. The green-haired man trembled, eyes wide with fear. As a giant shadow claw descended, he was speechless. Was it even a creature? The explosion left the district in ruins. A frantic old man told authorities he saw a giant hand appear, then dark energy destroy the area. Once dust settled, medics carried away the unconscious green-haired man and his assistant. Newly arrived pioneers examined the victims. A red-haired man and a purple-haired woman quickly noticed something unusual. The two B-rank pioneers had completely lost their color. The woman couldn't understand what power could drain someone's color entirely. Her companion suggested focusing on the mission first. The red-haired man explained they came due to reports of a large creature in the city. Local officers were shocked, realizing they spoke to high-ranking colorists. The purple-haired woman politely explained their investigation. At the destruction center, the red-haired man studied a massive crater and its dark stains. His partner confirmed creature traces. She noted such an appearance within the city was highly unusual. Looking into the crater, the red-haired man suspected a new monster type. Tracking it down wouldn't be easy. Far away in a barren, ruin-covered wasteland, a familiar sound echoed through the darkness, a cat crying. Kay lay in shadows, groaning. A rough tongue brushed him, slowly reviving him. He opened his eyes to see Nero licking his hair. Relief washed over him. Kay embraced Nero tightly. The pain returned. He slowly sat up, trying to recall what happened. The attackers, the disposal tank, the poisonous black liquid. His eyes widened. He was still alive. Kay stared at his hands in disbelief, then touched his head and froze. His hair, once white, was now completely black. He grabbed a strand, staring forward in confusion. He had no idea how he survived or why his appearance had changed so much. Surrounded by darkness, Kay looked around, seeing nothing. Desperately, he called for Nero's help. The black cat reacted instantly. Nero leaped, spun, and unleashed a brilliant white light illuminating the surroundings. The light revealed a horrifying sight. They were in a deep cave. Countless dark creatures watched from every direction. Kay stared in shock. His voice shook, trying to grasp the situation. Then the truth hit him. They were in the Black Lands, specifically the Black Forest. This was one of the city's most dangerous outer regions, typically for B-rank pioneers or higher. As monsters closed in, panic erupted. Kay yelled for Nero to follow, immediately running. Nero flew alongside, lighting their path. During their desperate escape, a giant shadow serpent nearly swallowed Kay despite extreme peril. He thanked Nero for the light. Together, they pushed through the dark forest. They scaled rocky cliffs, plunging down vertical drops, desperate to escape pursuing monsters. Then something strange. Kay's expression shifted, fear to confusion, an unusual sensation. Dark energy surged from his chest. His body felt incredible. Despite the chase, no fatigue. He effortlessly cleared massive gaps, moving faster, smoother than ever. When he landed safely, Kay finally realized a mysterious energy filled his body. Nero sensed the next danger first. A wolf-like shadow creature suddenly lunged. Kay was caught completely off guard with no time to defend himself. Certain he was about to die, he shut his eyes. Then a loud cracking sound echoed. Kay opened his eyes, stunned. The creature had retreated in fear, its teeth shattered. His arm was unharmed. Kay stared at his own hand. At last, he understood. This durability was the power he'd sought his whole life. The ground shook. A massive silhouette emerged from darkness. A giant one-eyed cyclops scaled the cliffs, radiating terrifying energy. As it raised its arm, Kay wondered why this black forest predator was here. The giant fist slammed down, sending debris flying, making Nero cry out. When the dust settled, Kay was alive. Despite the heavy impact, a confident smile formed. He finally saw a chance to win. Lonely childhood memories flashed, all his life dismissed and pushed aside. But now he held the power he'd dreamed of. No more running. Energy crackled as Kay clenched his fist. Shadows enveloped him, transforming him into dark energy with glowing white eyes. Cyclops roared, tried to crush him. Kay pierced it. A single punch was enough. The giant creature shattered, a shockwave sweeping the forest. Kay hovered among the falling debris. Then the dark energy vanished. Moments later, he floated high above a vast green forest under a bright sun. Dense woods and waterfalls stretched below, but the power vanished as quickly as it came. His hair turned white again. Kay looked down, confused. Then panic hit. Gravity was already pulling him down. He couldn't stop it. Screaming in terror, Kay plummeted toward the forest, crashing hard. He dragged himself from the crater. Nero hovered anxiously. Kay dropped to his knees, gasping as dark energy around him faded like smoke. To his horror, his color vanished at alarming speed. Panic took over. Kay finally understood his new power's weakness. The more he used it, the faster its energy drained. If this continued, he would become helpless again. Suddenly, darkness enveloped him. A mysterious voice echoed, asking what he was waiting for. It commanded him, "Act, your prey lies before you, devour it." Kay lowered his gaze to the Cyclops' remains. The voice pressed on. "Want to live? Reach out your hand." Exhausted, drenched in sweat, Kay struggled to stay conscious. Desperation filled his eyes under relentless pressure. A faint glow sparked as he fought to survive. Finally, body trembling, Kay instinctively reached for the monster's corpse. The instant his hand touched the Cyclops, a dark technique activated, absorbing its remaining shadow energy. Nero stared, wide-eyed, utterly disbelieving. A massive black light pillar erupted from the forest, piercing the sky as Kay absorbed the energy. When the light faded, Kay breathed heavily. Exhaustion slowly left his body. Leaning against a rock, he saw his hair was black again, his energy fully recovered. Looking up, Kay exhaled. He had survived. Meanwhile, peace reigned in Mary's workshop. Mary was focused on a blueprint when the doorbell rang. She looked up, seeing a figure in torn robes at the entrance. She tried to smile, but her body trembled. Mary greeted the visitor, asking his purpose. The figure stayed silent, emitting a dark aura, then stepped forward. Mary grew uneasy, calling him suspicious. As he approached, she panicked, grabbing a large wrench, warning she'd attack if he came closer. Suddenly, the figure rushed her. Mary screamed, eyes shut, but the footsteps stopped. The hood fell back, revealing a familiar smile. He told her to calm down. Kay awkwardly scratched his head, admitting he barely recognized himself. Mary lowered her weapon, eyes wide in shock, demanding an explanation for his drastic change. Her body still trembled, gripping a metal pipe. Fear turned to anger. Mary grabbed a hammer and wrench, shouting she'd never forgive whoever hurt him, wildly swinging the tools. Kay quickly calmed her, assuring he was okay. Realizing it was Kay, Mary lowered her weapons. She admitted fear had overwhelmed her after losing contact. Mary's expression softened into a relieved smile, telling Kay how glad she was he survived. Kay apologized for making her worry, yet he couldn't stop thinking he'd fallen into poisonous ink, somehow gaining a color instead of dying. He worried about his black color, often linked to monsters and negative perceptions, but he quickly dismissed the concern. What mattered was his chance to become a colorist. Kay declared he'd take the Pioneering Corps exam immediately. He thanked Mary for her help, then awkwardly asked to borrow clothes. Mary sighed tiredly, then smiled warmly, joking it was an investment in a future colorist. She grabbed Kay's hand, telling him to follow. She had something perfect. The scene shifted to a massive crowd of aspiring pioneers climbing the stairs of a gigantic coliseum. Inside, hundreds of applicants gathered around a floor of large white square platforms, preparing for the entrance exam. Among them, 3 young men nervously talked. A blue-haired man, number 183 on his chest, tried to calm his anxious friend. The pink-haired man still couldn't believe they'd made it this far. Now the entrance exam for the prestigious Dawn Pioneering Corps loomed. This S-rank corps, famed for exploring the Black Lands, housed skilled colorists, Shining City's greatest hope. But its reputation only amplified the candidates' nervousness. So many powerful competitors had gathered. Attention soon shifted to a long, blue-haired woman, rumored daughter of a famous color family, beside a man in a hat. Nearby was another rising talent, a pink-haired boy in protective goggles with a man in a gas mask. Yet one person drew more attention. Their eyes landed on Gale, a messy green-haired young man with a sharp, intimidating gaze. Many believed he'd surely pass. Rumors claimed he fought dangerous creatures alone. Gale, however, was infamous for his cruelty and brutality. Rumors also said he'd been expelled from his previous course. Candidate 183, blue-haired, arrogantly laughed, claiming he wasn't afraid of Gale. His friend immediately challenged him to repeat those words. The man's face instantly froze. Gale stared at them with open contempt, calling them foolish kids before sighing in disappointment. For an S-rank exam, the competition felt embarrassingly weak. He mentally dismissed candidate after candidate. None interested him until he spotted one exception, the blue-haired girl. He immediately recognized Ellie Cyan, second daughter of the Cyan family. A faint grin appeared. At least she seemed worthy of his attention. He wondered how everyone would react once the exam began. Suddenly, a mechanical voice echoed through the arena. All candidates looked toward the stage. The announcement declared the Dawn Pioneering Corps entrance exam officially open. A blond, yellow-eyed man stood at the podium, announcing the test was starting. The crowd immediately reacted with shock. They recognized him as a famous colorist from the Dawn Pioneering Corps. A hero renowned for his major contributions in recent creature hunts. Excited whispers filled the arena. An elite colorist like him personally overseeing the exam showed the Corps took this recruitment seriously. His overwhelming aura made candidates realize the true difference of an S-rank member. The examiner welcomed everyone, thanking them for applying. He acknowledged each candidate had their own reasons: money, power, honor, or duty. He coldly stated those reasons were irrelevant. Ultimately, only ability mattered. The Corps sought exceptionally strong individuals, capable of pushing into the Black Lands and reclaiming territory for humanity. He instructed candidates to look around and grasp one truth: no place for the half-hearted here. He then officially announced the first test. Pointing to the large white platforms, he explained the opening exam would be a tournament. Combat ability was paramount for pioneers. Outside the city's a brutal world, only the strongest survived. The examiner clenched his fist, ordering candidates to prove their abilities. Only top performers in the tournament would advance. Participants would be called by number, one by one. Soon, numbers 126 and 286 were announced. Gale, number 126, stepped forward, expression serious. The crowd immediately reacted. Everyone knew he was a top candidate. Many pitied his first-round opponent. Gale, meanwhile, grinned cruelly. Bored for too long, he welcomed the entertainment. His eyes narrowed, imagining how he'd toy with his foe. But when the contestant finally stepped onto the stage, Gale frowned. A man in a ragged cloak stood before him, number 286 on his chest, face hidden by a hood. Gale judged his opponent's stance, awkward, weak. His hand moved to the hilt of his sword. No discussion was needed. Coldly, he drew his blade, no more holding back. A moment later, he swung. Massive green wind energy exploded across the arena. Spectators realized Gale wasn't holding back. As glowing green swords appeared, many recognized the famous Gale technique. Cheers erupted. They hailed him a genius for mastering advanced swordsmanship so young. Gale stared at the cloaked figure, challenging him to survive. He kicked off, rushing forward. Wind energy swirled, ready to tear all apart, yet the cloaked figure remained still. As the attack closed in, he didn't move. Then, just as Gale descended with a powerful strike, the cloaked man stepped forward, landing a terrifying left punch on Gale's face. The outcome stunned everyone. Gale's body flew across the arena, confident candidates now screaming in shock. He crashed into the wall, creating a massive web of cracks before collapsing unconscious. A single hit ended the battle. The arena fell silent. Then the cloaked figure pulled back his hood. It was Kay. Rubbing his wrist, Kay admitted even he was surprised by the sudden move. His messy black hair was visible as he processed what just happened. Suddenly, a spectator pointed at him, shouting. The crowd wasn't shocked by his win, but by his energy's color, completely black. The blonde examiner watched, serious. He recognized black energy was typically creature-associated. Even Ellie seemed stunned, questioning if a human could possess such a color. Meanwhile, Kay stood alone in the arena. Unaware of his impact, people questioned, was black energy why he defeated Gale's sword with one punch? Kay nervously scanned, confused by reactions, wondering if he'd erred. The tournament continued. In a match, a frightened opponent hurled a sharp stone. Kay instantly charged, easily dodged, and sent the foe flying with one blow. Victory was announced promptly. And it didn't stop there. Kay's victories continued. He slammed one opponent, then easily defeated another. From above, the examiner declared Kay the tournament's most outstanding candidate. He named Kay the first known owner of a black color, urging the Dawn Pioneering Corps to recruit him before rumors spread. Heavy footsteps then approached. A casual voice remarked, "Today is turning into quite a troublesome day." The examiner recognized the red-haired man and blue-haired woman from the prior explosion. They discussed the unsolved creature incident in the Shadow District. But as the examiner mentioned an unusual candidate, the red-haired man sensed something, his gaze snapping to the arena, locking onto Kay and the black energy surrounding him. The blue-haired woman quietly asked if the boy was linked to the investigation. The man nodded. To him, a new color appearing post-Shadow District was too suspicious. He decided to watch Kay closely. Unaware of their scrutiny, Kay stared at the dark smoke from his fist. His pioneer dream felt real for the first time, yet he recalled his new power's weakness, quick energy drain. He warned himself if that power ran out mid-fight, he'd be helpless. Suddenly, freezing energy swept the arena. A gigantic ice wall formed. Ellie stood calmly behind the icy mist. Moments later, number 17 was declared winner. The audience, impressed, praised the Cyan family's power. As Ellie descended, Kay watched her in amazement. He wondered how anyone could defeat such terrifying magic. Ellie reached him, stopped, and stared with sharp, curious eyes. She said nothing. After a brief pause, she turned and left, leaving Kay utterly confused. Soon, the announcement declared the first test over. The blonde examiner stepped onto the podium, thanking everyone. Behind schedule, he moved directly to the next stage. Eliminated candidates were told to leave the arena. They walked away, disappointed. Just as the examiner began explaining the second test, a hand landed on his shoulder. The red-haired man stepped forward, smiling confidently, and took charge. He announced to the remaining candidates he would personally oversee the second exam. The crowd immediately recognized him. Red, one of Shining City's strongest colorists, a legend known for reclaiming territory from the Black Lands. Excitement quickly turned to fear. Tales of Red's destructive power filled their minds. Even his allies kept their distance during fights. Worse, rumors said no one ever passed his exams. The worried examiner warned the captain would be furious if the test format changed. Red just laughed, saying he was used to daily scolding. Then he explained the test, simply survive. The next moment, his body erupted in enormous flames. A wave of fire swept the arena, forming spherical barriers around each candidate, trapping them in unbearable heat. Panic instantly spread. Red explained he was recreating extreme environments from certain Black Lands regions. He claimed the Black Lands were filled with places humans could barely survive. He even mocked the test, claiming this heat was just a warm stove. With a cold expression, Red declared, "Endure and you pass, collapse." They were never qualified to be pioneers. Inside the fiery spheres, candidates suffered. Some quickly realized the barriers were unbreakable. Others screamed in pain, imagining how terrifying the Black Lands must be if this was considered mild. From the arena's side, the blonde examiner watched with admiration. Red's power hadn't weakened. Controlling so many barriers simultaneously demonstrated exactly why. He was the top colorist. A loud crack echoed through the arena. One fire sphere turned blue, then shattered. Icy energy burst outward, revealing Ellie calm amidst countless fragments. Red looked at her, impressed. He knew the Cyan family's power countered fire. Still, his flames usually overwhelmed that advantage. Seeing Ellie, he admitted she truly was a genius. His attention shifted to another candidate. Inside a different fire sphere, Kay stood still. Red watched him, uninterested, assuming he'd do nothing noteworthy. But behind the barrier, Kay panicked. He'd used too much color fighting Gale. Intense heat rapidly drained black energy from his hands. A terrifying thought struck him. If his power ran out, he'd turn colorless, just an experiment. Desperate, Kay sought a solution. His eyes locked onto the wall of flames. Then an idea hit him. If the barrier was color-powered, could he absorb it? No time to hesitate. Kay reached out, touched the rotating flames. An immediate reaction. Shockingly, the absorption worked. The fire sphere violently distorted, drawing all eyes. A black energy vortex burst from Kay, pulling red flames directly into his hand. On the podium, Red and the blonde examiner froze in disbelief. Cold sweat beaded on Red's face. He forced a stiff smile, muttering they'd found a genuine lunatic. Kay stood amidst the fading energy. Red and black power swirled around his hand. A heavy silence fell over the entire arena. But inside, Kay was panicking again. He forced a smile, fully aware nothing went as planned, having drawn too much attention. Ellie remained frozen, her eyes fixed on Kay and the dark energy, questioning if what she'd just seen was real. She couldn't understand how a human could be black. Realizing she was witnessing something unprecedented, an uneasy feeling slowly grew within her. The pressure to always be the best resurfaced for Ellie. She admitted Kay was genuinely strong. Even with all her power, victory wasn't guaranteed. As Kay walked away, Ellie sensed something about him beyond strength. She wondered what he truly was. Shaking her head, she tried to dismiss the heavy thought. Red walked to Kay, casually slinging an arm around his shoulder. He warned him things wouldn't be this easy next time. Red, smiling, remarked Kay's wild absorption ability truly sparked his curiosity. He then led Kay away, suggesting a private talk to shield Kay's privacy from Stai's curiosity. Kay nervously asked about the exam results. Red casually replied, someone with his power obviously passed. Kay fell silent, realizing the attention he'd drawn actually worked in his favor. Emotion swelled. He was one step closer to his pioneer dream. Suddenly, the blonde examiner's voice boomed, scolding Red for acting alone again. Red just laughed, asking him to let it slide. With a sigh, the examiner announced the test would continue. Ellie. Candidate 17 officially passed for breaking the barrier. Others faced further evaluations. Ellie barely heard the announcement, her gaze fixed on the dark tunnel where Red took Kay. The scene shifted to the ruined district. Red stood with Kay beside a vehicle, the purple-haired investigator waiting in the driver's seat. Red told her to wait. Kay looked around, freezing at the widespread destruction. To his horror, Red brought him back to the exact spot he fell into the waste ink. Red stared at the ruins, calling it ugly. A major incident occurred here. 2 pioneers were found completely drained of color, colorless, a historical first. Witnesses reported a giant creature at the scene. Red then turned his sharp gaze to Kay, noting the suspicious timing of his appearance not long after the creature appeared. Kay was the first human with black color. Red, dismissing it as coincidence, analyzed Kay's power, an unknown ability to absorb colors. Cold sweat ran down Kay's temple. He realized Red had been suspicious from the start. For a moment, he considered running, but the colorist's overwhelming aura made escape impossible. Then Red suddenly laughed, breaking the tension. He admitted he was just testing Kay. Red was slightly disappointed by Kay's honest, less entertaining reaction. His official mission was to investigate, but his personal interest lay in Kay's ability. Color powers weren't supposed to mix, yet Kay's power ignored that rule entirely. Recalling the second test, Red noted Kay still lacked proper control. When Kay tried to explain, Red cut him off. Red energy gathered around him. Time for a test. He extended a hand, challenging Kay. Try absorbing my energy. Kay panicked, warning it was too dangerous. Red just laughed. You're too inexperienced to worry about my level. Stop talking, just do it. Black symbolized the Black Lands, a terrifying, all-devouring power. He believed such unchecked power could shake Shining City's foundations. His thoughts drifted to the dark secrets of humanoid creatures. Should K encounter them or become one, Red knew he might have to kill him. K exhaled, feeling Red's crushing aura. Intimidated, he finally agreed to the test. Nervously, he grabbed Red's wrist, seeking assurance it wouldn't be his fault. Black energy immediately rose from his body. As their hands touched, a shockwave twisted the air. K gasped as Red's energy slammed into his arm, clashing with his black aura. Instantly, he realized his mistake. A massive fire explosion erupted, K screaming in pain. Trapped in flames, he shouted for Red to stop. He couldn't control the power. Boiling lava coursed through his body. K's vision blurred. Red, a giant god of fire. It was clear why Red was called a hero. Meanwhile, Red calmly stood amidst the flames, studying K's reaction. He realized the black energy constantly absorbed his power, as if starving. K's ability was immature. Red could resist the drain, but an ordinary person. This power was instantly lethal. The flames spiraled more violently. Red narrowed his eyes, realizing the exam hadn't shown K's true limits. He wanted to know how K absorbed and used colors. The energy reaction grew unstable. The black aura around K's arm changed shape, merging with the red light. A massive explosion erupted, forcing Red to retreat. When the smoke cleared, K emerged, transformed. His entire right side was covered in jagged demonic armor formed from condensed red and black energy. Red clenched his teeth. That form felt far too familiar. Seeing the monstrous claws and glowing eye, he knew anyone would mistake K for a creature. His last doubts vanished. He was convinced K was linked to the incident that left pioneers colorless. K struggled to stay conscious, for safety's sake. Red moved to stop the flames before K lost control, summoning a fire sphere to subdue him. But K growled low. Red froze. The boy wasn't attacking, he fought an internal battle. Inside K's mind, endless darkness and red text demanded more color. Voices urged him to take everything. K jolted, whispers choking his mind. He ordered the voices to shut up. With sheer determination, the single visible eye on his transformed body glowed red. He rejected the temptation, forcing the raging energy back under control. A shockwave burst as K suppressed the power. The jagged armor vanished. Red stared in genuine surprise. K staggered, gasping, exhausted. Red asked, amazed, if he had truly suppressed that much power alone. K's heart pounded wildly. He couldn't believe he was still alive. He feared losing control before a colorist. As he hesitated, Red looked satisfied. Red admitted underestimating K's power but deemed the experiment a success, finding it entertaining. His philosophy, gain requires risk. Red then declared the test over. After a pause, he reminded K he was the investigator for this district's destruction incident. With a calm, threatening smile, Red declared K the perfect suspect. K paled instantly. Red explained the situation's gravity. Many groups were interested, and once black color rumors spread, K could easily be a scapegoat. The district's damage was hundreds of millions. Deemed too dangerous, he faced exile or experimentation. K gritted his teeth, knowing he couldn't prove his innocence. Then Red suddenly offered a way out. If K agreed to work under his command, a solution might exist. K immediately bowed 90 degrees, declaring himself under Red's protection. Red, however, urged him to hear the conditions first, clarifying he wouldn't solve everything for free. In return, K would fulfill several requests. Red asked if he could handle that. K forced a trembling smile. Inside, he screamed. Anything was better than owing millions or becoming a test subject. He immediately agreed, promising to do whatever Red asked. Later, on barren land, a creature trembled as a massive wheel slammed down, barely missing it. An armored vehicle sped through the Blacklands fog. Inside, K stared out, realizing he'd never traveled this far. He wondered if this was his first real step as a pioneer. His thoughts were interrupted when Gale, the green-haired man, glared angrily and called him black-haired. Despite K saying nothing, Gale rudely told him to shut up. Confused, K sat awkwardly in the cargo compartment. This was the start he'd always wanted, but the atmosphere was far from comfortable. He glanced at the irritated Gale and Silent Ellie, wondering if joining their team was the right choice. A memory from yesterday surfaced. Red asked if K was ready for an exploration mission. He explained they'd traveled to a specific point in an unmapped area. Seeing K's nervousness, Red laughed, showed him a map, reassuring him he wouldn't be alone. Before the mission, other successful exam candidates were assigned to teams and official routes announced. K's only job, arrive on time. Now K realized everyone was already inside the vehicle. Red's disruption of the previous exam granted many candidates a second chance. Talented participants, including Gale, passed the additional tests. Ellie, the top rookie, joined Red's team by her own request. Gale glared at Kay with open hatred. He couldn't accept humiliation from Kay. He believed his loss was a momentary lapse, vowing it wouldn't recur. He threatened Kay, "Prepare yourself after the expedition." Gale scoffed, "Without Lavian, Kay would be dead." Ellie cut him off. Coldly, she told Gale to stop, mocking he'd just get knocked out again. Gale angrily turned, but Ellie ignored him. "He's no match for Kay." Kay looked at Ellie, surprised, with a flicker of hope. For a moment, he thought they might actually get along. Instead, Ellie stared coldly, reminding him of their agreement. She stated the loser should stay quiet and follow orders. This only confused Kay further. Caught between two feuding pioneers, Kay sighed. Teamwork already looked difficult. The vehicle crossed dark waters, heading toward a facility. They arrived at a busy dock where workers unloaded supplies. Kay, Ellie, Gale, and other recruits stepped onto Dawn Pioneering Corps forward operating base. Kay was amazed by the constant activity and the amount of S-rank equipment. It was far beyond his solo exploration dreams. A sudden poke on his cheek startled Kay. He turned to see Mary smiling brightly. She explained she'd joined as support for his first mission. Mary opened her jacket, revealing Nero inside. Kay immediately picked up the black cat, thanking her. Mary smiled warmly, calling Nero family. She mentioned a great support staff opportunity her skills needed. A loud announcement echoed across the base, summoning all pioneers. On the gray ground, they learned they'd soon enter the Blacklands. Kay handed Nero to Mary, asking her to care for him. Mary warned him not to be reckless. Kay smiled, promising they'd meet again. Mary hugged Nero, but the cat suddenly leaped from her arms. She gasped as Nero sprinted toward Kay, vanishing into his shadow. Mary's eyes widened, frozen by the impossible sight. Before she could react, the expedition group reached a massive fortress cave entrance. Arancha, with bright orange hair and a white coat, stood at the front. She loudly ordered everyone to prepare. New recruits were entering the Blacklands. Safety was paramount. Arancha warned them of a new threat. A scouting team found an unidentified dangerous creature in Area 21, an extreme zone where an A-rank monster's corpse was once found. Just then, a tense male pioneer rushed over, calling her name. He reported Team Leader Red took new recruits, leaving formation without authorization. Arancha's eyes widened. Confirming the report, she sighed in frustration. Red had caused trouble again. Meanwhile, a small group quietly slipped into a dark canyon far from the main force. Red led the way, extending a hand into the shadows. This squad, Kay, Gale, Ellie, and Red, had separated from the main expedition. Kay nervously questioned their safety, noting the main team's different route. Red casually stated their destination was unique. Kay eyed Gale and Ellie. All new recruits, their inexperience fueled his worry. Suddenly, Gale erupted, furious, demanding why he and Ellie were dragged. Red had only planned for Kay, a fact Gale found insulting. Red, a red aura pulsing, simply smiled. He explained his personal guidance was a rare gift, unfair if only Kay received it. He then made one thing clear: no spoiling, but no serious injuries either. The conversation ended. Red ordered everyone to move. Moments later, Kay's eyes widened. Enemies had appeared. Inside the cave, they found themselves surrounded by shadow creatures. Red raised a lantern while Kay, Gale, and Ellie were thrown into a chaotic battle. A wolf-like monster suddenly lunged from the darkness. Ellie reacted instantly. Her blue energy blade pierced straight through its body. She landed lightly, immediately understanding how brutal the Blacklands truly were. Surrounded by glowing eyes and endless monsters, she knew this was no training. Ellie tightened her grip, intending to control her power. She glanced at Kay, unwilling to fall behind. Meanwhile, Kay grabbed a shadow creature, crushing it barehanded. Ellie stared in disbelief, asking why he wasn't using a dropper. Kay hesitated, admitting he didn't own one. They were too expensive. He fought fine without it. Gale was stunned, shouting this made no sense for a pioneer. A dropper was vital, channeling color energy into weapons. Without it, hunting monsters should be impossible. They watched Kay among the corpses, wondering how he survived without such a basic tool. Gale's hand trembled on his weapon. He recalled the exam's humiliation, unable to even injure someone fighting dropperless. Staring at Kay's back, he vowed to crush him personally one day. The group ventured deeper into the canyon. Red, with a faint smile, found it amusing that one rookie had pushed two geniuses so far. He encouraged them. Their destination was near, and they could celebrate after everything was done. After another battle, monster corpses covered the area. Red announced a 10-minute break, reminding them their true mission hadn't even begun. Gale complained his color energy was almost depleted. He pulled out a small bottle of glowing green liquid and drank it. Kay immediately recognized it as personal ink, a rare, incredibly expensive alchemical ink, custom-colored for its user. Kay watched Gale and Ellie recover, feeling obvious envy, but he quickly pushed the thought aside. Walking toward the monster corpses, he stretched out his hand. Black energy swirled violently as he absorbed the creature's remaining power into his palm. Energy restored, Kay clenched his fist, ready to continue. He turned to find the others staring in horror and disbelief. Ellie cautiously asked, "Are you really okay?" Kay just waved it off. "Done this often." Gale exploded, unable to believe what he'd witnessed. Kay casually absorbing monsters without fear. Before the argument continued, Red cut them off. "Break's over." They moved deeper into the canyon until Red suddenly stopped, announcing their arrival. Ahead, a gigantic barrier of pure black energy stood. Swirling darkness blocked the path. Kay stared, muttering it resembled a black curtain. Seeing his reaction, Red smiled, finally revealing why he'd brought Kay here. To prove his point, Red summoned a red energy sphere, firing a powerful beam at the barrier. The attack vanished into darkness, traceless. Red explained, forcing the barrier only strengthened it. Its properties mirrored Kay's ability, leading him to believe only Kay could remove it. Pointing, Red revealed the path to the ruins lay beyond. Their true objective, a Stella fragment hidden inside. Kay's eyes widened instantly, while Gale and Ellie looked utterly confused. Gale asked what Stella was. Even Ellie admitted she'd never heard of it. Red confirmed it was real, and Shining City desperately sought it. He then pointed at Kay, ordering him to remove the barrier. Kay stepped forward, hand against the black wall. The moment he touched it, his absorption ability activated. Black energy surged wildly into his body, forming a massive vortex as the barrier collapsed. Red, Gale, and Ellie watched the entire structure devoured. Red smiled, satisfied. His suspicion was correct. Kay struggled, sweat pouring down his face, body trembling from immense energy flooding him. Then the ground shook. Gale and Ellie immediately knew such a large disturbance would attract creatures. They were right. Shadowy, wolf-like monsters appeared from the cliffs, quickly surrounding them. Gale and Ellie instantly drew their weapons. Red chuckled, finding their welcome party a bit too enthusiastic. He ordered the rookies to handle the monsters, Kay to finish absorption. Coldly, he ordered them to slaughter every last one. Gale moved first. His blade unleashed powerful wind, tearing through shadow creatures. Ellie unleashed her power, creating massive ice pillars that pierced multiple enemies. Watching, Red quickly realized he didn't need to intervene. Red energy orbs floated around him, light beams effortlessly piercing the remaining monsters. Meanwhile, Kay remained on one knee, struggling against the massive energy flow. His main worry, the barrier's power felt strangely compatible with his own. He realized losing focus could reverse the flow, stealing his color. Clenching his jaw, Kay refused to give in. With one final push, absorption complete. Kay slowly stood, breathing heavily, confirming every last bit of barrier absorbed. Beyond the destroyed barrier, Kay was shocked to find a gigantic, bottomless black pit. He guessed it was the entrance to the ruins. After reporting, Red gave him a rare compliment. Red then ordered the team to clear remaining monsters, but his expression suddenly changed. In an instant, he rushed forward, pulling Ellie and Gale back. Moments later, an invisible energy slash tore through their previous spot, wiping out the remaining creatures. Gale stared, horrified. A moment later, he'd be dead. Red's face turned serious. He understood their earlier lack of resistance. Something far more dangerous was near, having driven the monsters away. He recalled reports of a dangerous entity here. Then, a shadow emerged from the dust. Dragging a massive sword, Red knew they had no time to waste. The figure stepped into the light. A man with split hair, white and black. Half his face was masked by a dark growth, multiple weapons hung from his back. His pressure was terrifying. Red stepped forward, telling Kay and the others to listen. Without wasting time, he shoved the lantern into Kay's hands. He ordered them to immediately enter the ruins and find the Stella fragment. Kay anxiously asked if they had to go down alone. Red assured him their abilities were enough. Before arguments, Red pushed Kay, Ellie, and Gale into the dark abyss, telling them to stop complaining. Kay's panicked scream echoed as they fell. Red stood alone at the pit's edge, red energy burning. From below, Kay shouted, asking what to do. Behind Red, the armed figure waited silently. Their eyes met, signaling an imminent, fierce battle. The scene shifted to the abyss's bottom. Kay lay still, then groaned, clutching his head, forcing himself up. He lit Red's lantern, assuming they'd reached the ruins. As light spread, he froze. Before him wasn't an ancient ruin, but modern skyscraper remains and shattered concrete. An entire modern city, destroyed and buried underground. Kay slowly swept his lantern, disbelieving its existence. He complained about the light's limited reach until a voice urged him to stop whining and move toward the light ahead. Kay was relieved finding Gale and Ellie. He admitted fear of separation. Gale blamed him, but Ellie fired back, noting Gale was lost too. Looking across the ruined city, Gale grew uneasy. How could they find a stellar fragment in these massive ruins, not even knowing its appearance? Kay agreed. Searching blindly here could take forever. He wished Nero were here. A light appeared near his feet. Kay looked down, shocked. It was Nero. He panicked, asking how the cat followed them. Ellie narrowed her eyes suspiciously. "Is Nero a creature?" Cold sweat ran down Kay's face. Then he suddenly realized this was an opportunity. Calling Gale and Ellie, Kay lifted Nero with a confident smile. He declared an easy way to find the Stella fragment. Gale instantly dismissed it. Ellie, however, ignored him, becoming more interested in Nero. Kay then revealed Nero's special ability. Leaping from Ellie's arms, Nero transformed into a swirling mass of energy midair. A brilliant light illuminated the ruins, stunning all three. The glowing sphere shot forward, leaving a bright trail through the darkness. They followed without hesitation. Gale couldn't believe such a small creature possessed intelligence and a special ability. He demanded to know where Kay found it. Kay ignored him, observed Nero, and concluded the Stella fragment was ahead. Suddenly, Nero accelerated along a specific trail, leading them to a gigantic concrete structure with a dark tunnel. Kay wondered how deep they'd go. Gale mocked his fear. Kay retorted, "We're going in." The group advanced through a massive, high-ceilinged corridor, Nero's light guiding them. Kay noted the facility was larger than expected. Nero then stopped before a huge metal door, signaling something important was near. Silence shattered as a heavy impact landed a gigantic mechanical leg directly in front of them. Kay froze. A rusted robot towered over them. Gale was confused. It was unlike the biological creatures they fought. The machine activated, projecting a scanning light toward Ellie. It identified her color, bright blue. The scanner moved to Gale, recording green. As the beam reached Kay, he realized it was identifying their colors. The result appeared instantly, absolute black. The robot's eyes immediately flared to life. Machine detected Black Witch's color, classifying Kay a threat. Before Kay could react, a heavy punch slammed him. He flew back, groaning, avoiding the worst impact. Furious, he got up, shouting at the machine. Robot raised its massive fist again. Kay rushed forward, striking its metal arm, but the impact nearly threw him off balance. Armor was far tougher than expected. Gale stared in shock as the machine prepared another attack. Ellie lunged with her rapier, but her strike only sparked, leaving no scratch. Her face paled, her attack useless. Watching the machine, Kay noticed a glowing core in its chest, strange liquid swirling within. He immediately realized it was its weak point. Just as he prepared to strike, the robot moved surprisingly fast, swinging its arm like a giant club. Kay barely avoided the blow, jumping back in frustration. He remembered the black power that once covered his body. A full transformation would consume too much color energy, so he concentrated it all into his right hand. A dense black aura wrapped his fist. Kay leaped forward, striking with all his strength. The punch pierced the robot's chest, shattered its core, tearing apart its upper body. Its head flew off, the light in its eyes vanishing instantly. Kay sighed in relief amidst the wreckage. Gale and Ellie could only stare in silence. From the ruins, Kay retrieved the machine's spherical core, thinking Mary would be pleased. Suddenly, Gale demanded an explanation for Kay's power. Both he and Ellie pressed him with questions. Kay, growing nervous, claimed the technique consumed immense color energy. As he spoke, the giant metal door behind them slowly opened, revealing a black void. Nero suddenly shot out, crying in panic. The little cat trembled beside Kay, sensing something was off. Kay approached cautiously. His fingertip touched the darkness, the surface rippled like water, then everything changed. A massive shadow burst from the void. Gigantic black tendrils wrapped around them, dragging them away. Gale and Ellie screamed, pulled helplessly into the darkness. All three were swallowed by the void. They fell through endless blackness, landing in a completely different environment. Gale complained, checking for injuries, but his words stopped. He looked at his chest and froze. The green color fueling his power was gone. Only a black and white world remained. Kay and Ellie stood beside him, equally stunned. Everything had lost its color. In this monochrome reality, confusion and fear quickly took over. Far from the underground ruins, a small scorpion scuttled across the wasteland, shining city shimmering in the distance. Within that city stood the Eastern Administration Office. Inside, a high-ranking official, the chief, angrily demanded an update on the target's whereabouts. A nervous subordinate reported the boy was on an exploration mission with Colorist Red, and had specifically asked them not to interfere. The chief's face immediately flushed red with rage. He cursed black energy. Furious Red brought someone so dangerous into the field. Red might be a hero, but this decision crossed the line. He explained a new dangerous creature recently panicked the ruling council. They feared the catastrophic black wave might have already begun. His irritation grew, realizing he'd be blamed if things went wrong. Mid-outburst, a pink and yellow-haired woman smiled, noting the chief's anger. This was Camellia, leader of the Dawn Pioneering Corps. She urged him to calm down, lest he end up in a hospital. Camellia understood his concerns, but felt he was jumping to conclusions. Was Red truly the type to act without thinking? She argued Red was the most suitable safeguard for the boy. Deploying a high-risk individual might yield unexpected positive results. Sipping her tea, Camellia stated they needed trust, not anxiety. Her expression then twisted from the tea's bitter taste. The chief, ignoring her, poured an absurd amount of sugar into his cup, making Camellia wonder how he could drink it. He promptly reminded her to stay focused, and Camelia's expression turned serious. She admitted the chief's caution came from black colors linked to the legendary Black Witch. Black represented death and fear, linked to the first black wave. That disaster nearly wiped out humanity. Dark fog covered the world, strange creatures appeared, creating the Blacklands. Camellia believed another wave was inevitable. Ultimately, this exploration was about survival. Now, two things have appeared simultaneously, a new anomaly. And a black wielder. Firmly, Camellia insisted all powers, including black, must be utilized, urging the chief to sway the council. The chief sighed, admitting it wasn't as simple as she claimed. Still, eyeing Kay's photograph in a file, he promised to do everything possible. He couldn't help but wonder if the city's fate hinged on that one boy. Meanwhile, the three pioneers stood within an endless black void. Their bodies were just glowing white outlines. Gale panicked, pointing at himself, shouting his color was gone. He demanded why Kay still had his. Kay calmly admitted he had no idea. His only guess, his black color blended into the surrounding darkness. Suddenly, Gale bent over, exhausted. Ellie grabbed her head, a wave of weakness washing over her. Kay was confused, feeling fine. Then he realized something. Living without color was his normal. Gale focused on a strange sensation, a faint light pulsing within him like a hidden core. Suddenly, eerie whispers echoed from every direction. All three turned in panic. Trembling, Gale shouted into the darkness, demanding the whisperer reveal themselves. Kay listened, wondering if it was his usual voice. Then he realized this one was different. A vague, long-haired figure emerged from shadows. Kay immediately sensed her presence, spinning around. Gale and Ellie froze in fear, unsure if it was a living creature. What terrified them most was her sudden appearance. The mysterious woman slowly raised her hand, pointing at Kay's chest. His body stiffened. His eyes widened. He had been chosen. Instantly, his consciousness was dragged into a chaotic vision. He saw an energy vortex devouring a city. The scene shifted to a blood-red nightmare. The world ruined, filled with gigantic monsters. A massive eye opened in the sky above countless shadow creatures, a many-eyed monster staring from the horde's center. The vision shifted again. The mysterious woman looked directly at him with a single glowing eye. Kay then stood before an enormous blue energy, radiating immense pressure. He couldn't discern memory from reality. The confusion was unbearable. For the first time, he questioned his identity. Deep in his subconscious, a voice from a bright light said he needed a name. A vague past figure smiled, naming him Kay, and urged him to find his own light and color. The vision ended abruptly. Kay gasped back to reality, drenched in sweat. His face was pale, the recent memories leaving him badly shaken. He staggered through the void, clutching his head, cursing. Why did those horrifying images keep forcing their way in? Kay desperately tried to piece together the fragmented visions, fighting to preserve the fading memories. He was certain they held answers. Then a single name surfaced, Lumiel. Kay frowned, unsure who that was. Gale's scream shattered his focus. He'd lost control, roaring into darkness, wildly swinging his sword at invisible enemies. Kay turned, seeing Gale's blade dangerously close to Ellie, curled in fear. Gale screamed, completely detached from reality. Ellie trembled, begging him to stop, her pleas unheard. Gale rampaged, shouting everyone should die. His eyes blackened and bled, clear signs the void had corrupted his mind. Meanwhile, Ellie was trapped in her own nightmare. Black tears streamed as she clutched her head, repeatedly apologizing to her sister, reliving a traumatic memory. Kay watched them with growing concern. Their conditions worsened. He finally understood. Both the creature and this strange space were slowly corrupting them. Staying here longer, they might never recover. Then a familiar sound echoed through the darkness. Kay looked up, a small white light floated toward him. Relief flooded his face. Nero was safe. Kay greeted him, asking if he was all right. Nero flew around nervously, signaling toward the distance. Kay immediately understood something waited ahead. Nero shot forward, leaving a light trail. Kay was about to follow, but stopped, looking back. Gale's sword still menaced terrified Ellie. Kay knew he couldn't abandon them. He looked at Nero, asking for help. Instantly, a massive wave of purifying light erupted from Nero, engulfing Gale and Ellie. Within it, dark corruption evaporated. Their screams faded as darkness's influence vanished. Kay watched, satisfied, ensuring Nero's light worked. Once certain Gale and Ellie were safe, he told them to stay put. Kay ventured deeper into the void, alone, following Nero's light trail. Soon, frustration built as he still saw nothing. Then the disturbing whispers returned. A mysterious voice echoed, claiming no color could reach it. Kay clicked his tongue, annoyed by another meaningless riddle. Suddenly, a bright, star-like light appeared in the distance. Kay's expression brightened instantly. He ran toward it. The closer he got, the more amazed he became. Before him, a massive, glowing, four-pointed star resting on a stone monolith. Kay instantly knew this was his target. The stellar fragment, radiating intense holy light. Its shape and glow differed from the one he'd seen, making him wonder if each fragment was unique. Wasting no time, Kay climbed the formation to claim it, eager to finally leave this unpleasant dimension. The moment his hand touched the glowing core, light swirled violently. A huge energy surge filled his body, activating his absorption ability automatically. Kay was stunned, his body glowing from the absorbed power. Panic set in. Why had his power activated without control? He hoped it wouldn't cause another problem. Simultaneously, the dark influence trapping them began to fade. Kay looked up in relief as the air pressure vanished. The endless black void disappeared. A massive gray stone hall was revealed. Kay stood in the center, hand glowing with energy, confirming the black world's end. He thought dangerous places always held unexpected surprises. Gale and Ellie regained consciousness, staring in disbelief. Kay immediately asked if they were all right. Instead of answering, Gale pointed accusingly, while Ellie asked in shock how Kay was unaffected. Kay admitted he didn't know. Instead of dwelling, he presented the glowing object, announcing they'd found their target. The small object shimmered with rainbow light, the stellar fragment. The team gathered. Gale couldn't believe something so small was Red's item. Ellie, however, was fascinated by the many colors within such a tiny object. Nearby, Nero floated silently, eyes fixed on the glowing sphere. Kay relaxed, confirming no side effects. But Nero slowly drifted closer, eyes fixed on the fragment. Then, without warning, the cat opened its mouth wide. Before anyone could react, Nero swallowed the stellar fragment whole. Kay's face instantly filled with horror. Gale and Ellie panicked, shouting at Nero, demanding what it was doing. Gale yelled at the cat. A stellar fragment wasn't food. His frustration exploded. He grabbed Nero, shaking it, ordering it to spit the fragment out. Kay rushed forward, stopping Gale, shouting for him to let Nero go. Loud cracking sounds spread through the walls and ceiling. The chamber shook violently. Gale cursed in frustration. After all they'd endured, was this truly the end? The tremors only grew stronger. Rocks and debris began raining down around them. Realizing the danger, Gale yelled, "Run!" Kay hugged Nero tightly, sprinting alongside Ellie and Gale. They raced against time as the room collapsed behind them. Breathing heavily, they barely escaped through the corridor before the entrance sealed off completely. Elsewhere, a group of pioneers stood before the corpse of a gigantic monster. Arancha, the orange-haired woman, knelt, examining deep slashes in the ground. Her expression hardened. A purple-haired man approached, asking if she'd found something. Arancha nodded slowly. "The battle-crazed monster has returned," she stated heavily. These traces belonged to Sword Demon, one of the witch's black hands. Sword Demon's presence always brought chaos. She suspected the recent monster surge was linked to him. Asked if the expedition should continue, Arancha immediately refused. They had enough resources, she wouldn't gamble her pioneers' lives. But then a massive energy wave swept the air. In the distance, a gigantic red flame explosion erupted from a mountain. Arancha froze. She instantly recognized the color, reds. Her eyes widened. If Red fought with such power, Sword Demon had to be there. An invisible energy slash suddenly shot towards them. Arancha warned her team. She drew her giant mechanical hammer, glowing orange, then leaped and swung. An explosion of orange energy collided with the black slash, neutralizing the attack. Landing firmly, Arancha declared the expedition officially over. She ordered her team back to the outpost, instructing her deputy to lead the retreat. Without hesitation, Arancha shot towards the mountain peak. Where Red fought, a fierce battle was underway. Red and black energy clashed across the battlefield. Colorist Red and Sword Demon moved at blinding speed, their weapons clashing non-stop. Sword Demon hurled a dark energy vortex at Red. Red blocked and flawlessly redirected the attack. The exchange continued non-stop, then a massive pillar of red flames erupted. Sword Demon immediately leaped back, narrowly escaping the blaze. A voice praised Red's feint attack. Arancha descended, challenging Sword Demon directly. With a fierce grin, she swung her hammer down. The orange shockwave smashed Sword Demon into the ground. As dust settled, Red noted Arancha was late. She casually replied. Red admitted her attack was clean, but not enough to finish the job. Moments later, Sword Demon emerged from the dust, his gaze filled with pure hatred. Red remained calm, noting the fight would be easier now with Arancha and her color. Arancha warned him not to hold back. She was relieved to arrive before things worsened. No colorist wanted to see Red at full power. Red just clicked his tongue in annoyance. Ignoring the shouts, Arancha activated her ability. An orange energy circle lit up beneath her feet. A glowing aura enveloped her as she tightened her grip on her hammer, declaring they'd bring down another of the witch's black hands. Across from them, Sword Demon stood silently, face tense with rage. As Red and Arancha prepared to attack, heavy breathing echoed from the cliff. Red's eyes widened. Even Sword Demon turned in confusion. Figures appeared on the rocky ledge. Gale Ellie Nero finally emerged. Gale immediately collapsed, gasping, swearing he'd never return to those ruins. But Kay froze, a terrifying pressure washing over him. He looked up. Sword Demon stared directly at him. Behind them, Red and Arancha glowed with color energy. Kay then realized they'd walked straight into a battlefield. Red and Arancha cursed the terrible timing, moving to intercept. Red yelled to move, but Sword Demon ignored the colorists, his gaze fixed on weaker prey. With terrifying speed, he charged toward Gale Ellie. Instinct took over. Gale gripped his sword, Ellie raised her weapon. Despite exhaustion, both stepped forward. Sword Demon swung his massive black blade. One strike shattered their weapons. They froze in horror. Gale couldn't grasp how his reinforced weapon shattered instantly. Fear paralyzed him. The power gap was immense. The giant sword rose again. A white energy slash ripped through the air. Without thought, Kay leaped, shielding Gale and Ellie. The attack severed his left arm. Pain exploded through him. Ellie screamed his name. Gale shouted in panic. Kay was thrown back, blood gushing from the wound. Sword Demon immediately advanced, kneed Gale, and seized Ellie, taking her hostage. Red and Arancha arrived a moment later, but froze. They couldn't attack without risking Ellie's life. Sword Demon ordered them to hold their ground, demanding they clear a path and cease pursuit. Then he demanded the key. Red and Arancha were visibly stunned. Sword Demon warned the girl's life was in his hands. Red narrowed his eyes, weighing the situation. Arancha angrily demanded to know what key he spoke of. Her hands trembled with rage. Meanwhile, Kay lay face down. Blood flowed from his severed arm. Nero floated above, meowing frantically. Then Kay's remaining hand moved. Dark energy seeped from the ground. Kay slowly rose. His silhouette towered over the battlefield. Sword Demon felt a strange pressure turning toward him, confusion on his face. He couldn't grasp the sight. Kay stood tall, face hidden in shadows. Black energy violently swirled. Darkness gathered at his severed arm's stump. A new arm formed, made of dense shadows. Sword deepened. The demon stared in disbelief. He instinctively recoiled as overwhelming pressure washed over him. His voice trembled, demanding why a human possessed black. Kay stepped forward. The dark energy condensed further. His new arm became complete. Then an explosion of black power burst outward, slamming Sword Demon, sending him flying. Arancha and Colorist Red could only stare in shock. Sword Demon suddenly began choking on an invisible force, clutching at his own throat. With one hand, Kay lifted the massive creature. Arancha pulled Ellie and the others to safety. Red watched grimly, fearing the black power had consumed Kay's mind. Sword Demon struggled as darkness crushed his body. His armor cracked, his existence eroding. Through the pain, he realized Kay was stealing his very being. As Sword Demon met Kay's glowing eyes, an old memory struck him. This feeling was all too familiar. It was exactly like his own. In his final moments, Sword Demon understood. Kay was the one they'd sought all along. He was the key. Terrifying jaws of darkness erupted from Kay, closing in to devour Sword Demon. Realizing the danger, the monster drew his sword, unleashing a barrage of slashes, tearing through the shadows to forge an escape route. He knew he couldn't win like this. Instead, Sword Demon charged Kay, targeting his limbs. A loud impact echoed across the battlefield. His eyes widened, his attack utterly stopped. Kay stood motionless in the darkness, his transformed arm blocking the blade. The strike had no effect at all. Kay's black hand tightly gripped the sword. Sensing the shadow jaws closing, Sword Demon leaped back, barely escaping. More shadows immediately appeared around him. He held his breath, admitting Kay's power far exceeded expectations. Then another presence joined. Arancha charged forward, furious, shouting she'd had enough. Her giant mechanical hammer crashed down with overwhelming force, forcing Sword Demon to block. The next impact shattered his sword. The monster groaned as Arancha's hammer pinned him, ready to crush. But Sword Demon made a quick decision. With the key's identity confirmed, fighting was pointless. He suddenly retreated, Arancha cursing as she pursued. Realizing his destination, panic crossed her face. She warned Red, "Stop him before the depths." Sword Demon halted as a voice called out. Colorist Red stood before him. His crimson eyes glowed, his sword blazed red as he activated Chroma Annihilation Fire. A single slash shot forward with terrifying speed. It severed Sword Demon's left arm, splitting the ground behind him. He staggered back, clutching his shoulder, horrified by Chroma's power. Red gave him no chance to recover. Wave after wave of crimson energy slashes crashed toward him. With one arm, Sword Demon fought desperately, swearing he'd return for the key. Bloodied, he leaped away, vanishing into shadows. Red stayed at the cliff's edge, staring into the dark where the monster vanished. Arancha wanted to pursue, but Red stopped her, deeming it too dangerous. This was their limit. The Blacklands served as the enemy's natural shield. The team regrouped. Arancha apologized. Red reassured everyone, grateful they were alive. His expression hardened as he looked behind him. Kay stood motionless. Black shadows flowed from the ground, enveloping his entire body. Red watched, shocked, as Kay absorbed the black lands. Slowly, the dark aura faded. Kay staggered, eyes rolling back, the black energy vanishing completely. All strength left him. He collapsed forward, unconscious. The group stood silently around Kay's unconscious body, after witnessing the power he'd just unleashed. They couldn't stop questioning his true identity. Elsewhere, Sword Demon stumbled through darkness, blood pouring from his wounds. He groaned in pain as dark energy gathered around his shoulder. His severed arm slowly regenerated. Then a mocking voice echoed, laughing at his misery, asking if he'd just been beaten. It mocked his habit of interfering where he didn't belong. Sword Demon narrowed his eyes at the shadows. Two mysterious girls, green and black-haired, stepped forward. Sword Demon instantly knew them, Viper. They surrounded his injured body, cheerfully teasing his state. Curious, they wondered who could injure a monster like him. One Viper examined the ground, finding scorching heat and pure crimson energy. She looked up with a sly smile, realizing Sword Demon had fought Colorist Red. She laughed, calling survival against such a monster a miracle. Sword Demon snorted, annoyed by the persistent teasing. He snapped at the Vipers. "Shut up and leave!" Unfazed, they instead commented on Colorist Red's strength, admitting the human was incredibly powerful. Yet they noted his style consumed his own life force, meaning his destruction was inevitable. Then Viper's tone turned serious. She confronted Sword Demon with the question he'd avoided. She asked if he'd noticed the Black Witch's massive barrier around the ruins was open. With a dangerous smile, she probed. "Who did it and how?" Sword Demon remained silent. Viper sighed, pressing him for answers. Sword Demon cursed her internally. He knew revealing such vital information was pointless. Kay's identity, if revealed, would only cause him trouble. His eyes flashed with desire, determined to claim the boy. Seeing his reaction, Viper looked disappointed, calling him boring. She watched Sword Demon leave, sensing his hesitation. The two Vipers chuckled, mocking his suspicious behavior. His silence only made it more obvious he was hiding something, but their curiosity quickly shifted. The dominant Viper casually stated it didn't matter. They'd find out sooner or later. Her green eyes glowed, concluding the barrier's opening linked to city humans. Before a massive tentacled silhouette, Viper grinned. A clue found, time to create real chaos. The shining city, a beacon of safety in a dark world. In a medical room, Kay lay unconscious, hair white again. Mary sat beside his bed. Red Gale and Ellie Cyan stood watch. The three elite pioneers stared at the sleeping boy, expressions heavy. Red recalled the chaos in the Black Lands. Shame consumed him. He'd promised no serious harm. Sword Demon Kay's slashed hand broke that promise. He silently bore the mission's full weight. He eyed his broken pocket watch. He felt unchanged. Perhaps he wasn't a hero. Ellie and Gale discussed the mission nearby. Ellie called their survival a miracle. Thanks to Red and Arancha's leadership. Red just listened, silent and exhausted. Ellie's voice firmed. She vowed to get stronger, never again a burden to Kay. Red told her not to rush. Mary froze, overhearing them. Her mind recalled the first time those famous colorists appeared at her workshop, claiming friendship with Kay. She'd been scared then. Now she knew better. Kay's new friends were good people. She gazed at his calm, sleeping face, hoping he'd wake soon. A nurse confirmed Kay had no physical injuries. He'd wake soon. Red broke the silence, confirming Mary's name and asking if she was Kay's friend. She nodded. Red reassured her about Kay, then his expression turned serious. He asked if Mary knew about a creature named Nero. Suddenly, a black shadow slipped from behind Kay. Gale jolted, pointing. It finally showed itself. A small black cat sat on Kay's pillow. Gale scolded it for hiding, then reported to Red. This was the creature that swallowed the Stella fragment. Gale grumbled. The cat's disappearance made explaining things to Red a mess. Red still looked confused, his patience thinning. Gale lunged at the bed, ordering the cat closer. Nero slapped him and flew off, making Gale angrier. The cat shot into Mary's arms. She hugged him tight. Relief washed over her. She'd suspected Nero was in Kay's shadow, and stroking his fur, she was glad he was safe. Red, across the room, watched Nero. The cat felt familiar, though he couldn't explain why. He dismissed it, but his gaze lingered. Then Nero's mouth glowed. Mary jumped back as the cat coughed up an orb. Red sighed in relief, admitting he'd worried about its retrieval. Stella Fragment's rainbow light filled the room. Red grasped it. Another fragment secured, but his face darkened, recalling the price. Meanwhile, Kay was trapped in a battle dream. He saw Ellie and Gale unable to stop the sword demon. Protecting friends drove him, risks be damned. Panic spiked. With a sharp cry, Kay jolted awake, gasping, drenched in sweat, looking around confused. Red held the Stella fragment. Ellie and Gale were close. Kay's mind raced. Where was he? What happened to the enemy? He looked at his hands. Fear struck. The black was gone. He was colorless again. Panic. Kay scrambled to hide his identity from these pioneers. Memories of rejection for being colorless flooded back. He feared they'd cast him out again. Red immediately noticed Kay's tension. Calmly, he told Kay to lift his head, asking why he looked so guilty. Red stated Kay's appearance wasn't the problem. What mattered was their first mission's success. He admitted he never expected new recruits to find the fragment. Then, with a warm smile, the captain warned Kay he'd be training him hard. With that, he officially welcomed Kay to the Red team. Kay froze, disbelief turning to a relieved smile as fear of rejection vanished. Filled with fresh resolve, he smiled back, ready for what was next. Red prepared to leave, instructing the recruits to conclude their conversation. He needed to deliver the Stella fragments directly to Lord Luminous and ordered them to rest at the facility, awaiting further instructions. Red departed. Kay, Mary, Ellie, and Gale remained in the medical room. Ellie broke the silence, asking Kay what he remembered after passing out on the battlefield. Kay looked nervous. He admitted Captain Red ordered secrecy, but genuinely remembered little. Ellie sighed, deciding not to push. Everyone had their secrets, she figured. Kay insisted he was truthful, then quickly changed the subject, how to get his black color back. Mary laughed, telling him not to worry. She'd already prepared something for it. She proudly dug through her bag, others watching. Her face lit up. She pulled out a small bottle of dark liquid, announcing it was black ink, casually found at a dump site. Ellie's face paled. She stared at Mary in disbelief, shouting, "That's not ink, that's toxic waste. Why keep something dangerous?" Kay, however, looked thrilled, calling it his personal ink. Ellie's warning it was poison didn't faze him. Kay unhesitatingly drank the bottle's contents. Mary smiled knowingly. Ellie froze in shock. Kay exhaled, satisfied, feeling alive again. Dark mist swirled, his energy surged, hair turning pitch black. He clenched his fist, declaring full recovery. Mary clapped, delighted, then added the ink wasn't enough for full restoration. She suggested her studio for more. Kay agreed instantly, fired up. Gale watched silently, dark-faced. He finally spoke, announcing his departure. He stopped before leaving, shooting Kay a suspicious, hostile look. His eyes fixed on the fully healed arm, sliced clean off during the fight. Gale knew such high-level regeneration was exclusive to certain colorists. He couldn't grasp how Kay pulled it off. His voice sharpened. He demanded why Kay risked such danger. He recalled Kay leaping before the sword demon, taking a brutal hit meant for him and Ellie. Kay hesitated under the anger. He explained he genuinely felt they were all in danger, thinking his ability might stop the attack. Then he added it hadn't worked. It almost made things worse. That honest answer didn't calm Gale. His jaw tightened. Then in a sudden burst, he grabbed Kay's collar. He shouted, demanding to know who asked for Kay's help. His face twisted with anger as he said it directly to Kay. He didn't like him. Kay fell silent, confused, unable to grasp Gale's harsh reaction. Mary immediately intervened. She snapped at Gale, demanding an explanation for his crazy behavior. Gale said nothing. His face clouded over. After a tense pause, he released Kay's collar. Without a word, he turned and left. Mary fumed, but Ellie calmed her, explaining Gale was always difficult. Ellie decided to leave too. Kay thanked her. Ellie suggested rescheduling their match. Once Ellie left, it was just Kay, Mary, and Nero. Kay suggested returning to Mary's workshop. Mary readily agreed, pleased, before they left. Kay remembered something for Mary. She looked at him, curious. He explained it was a find from taking down an enemy during the mission. Recalling the giant automaton, he pulled a bag from the shelf, sure she'd love it. He revealed a glowing mechanical object. Mary froze. Her eyes lit up, realizing its worth. It was the glowing core from the robot Kay had destroyed in the ruins, inside a grand hall once filled with shimmering light. Elsewhere, Red walked a quiet corridor, serious. He stepped into a massive room, flooded with blinding golden light. At a long staircase's end, a figure in rainbow light waited. Red announced his presence. A woman with long, pale hair and an elegant white gown greeted him, expecting him. Red got straight to it. For the first time in a long while, he had good news. His prediction was right. They'd found a way to open the Black Witch's veil. Lord Luminous turned to face him. Back at the workshop, Mary was absorbed in the mechanical core. She excitedly examined Kay's gift, amazed its structure matched ancient tech from her books. It used ink as fuel like modern machines, but its efficiency far surpassed anything current. What astonished her was its ability to power a ruined golem with nearly faded ink. Kay, meanwhile, sat bored with Nero. He skeptically eyed the core, asking if it was truly special. To him, it seemed ordinary. Mary instantly snapped back, insisting the item was extremely special. Such relics were rare. Even a renowned pioneer corps might only find one annually. Daydreaming of that lost tech era, she wished she'd experienced it. Kay cut in, casually asking if they should just sell the relic. Mary immediately got mad, swinging her wrench. She called him an amateur. A real technician would never pick money over research like this. Radiating confidence, she declared ideas were flooding her head, promising to build Kay the best gear with this knowledge. Kay smiled, finding her happiness worth the effort. As Kay and Nero prepared to leave, saying they'd return, Mary suddenly stopped him. She recalled someone had been looking for her. Kay looked confused. Mary explained a group approached her in the Shadow District collecting ink. She initially thought they were thugs, almost drawing her saw wrench. Then she realized they knew exactly who she was. Their leader, a man in a tall hat, uneasily asked if she was Kay's friend. He stated they wanted to meet the black color holder. Mary admitted the encounter felt like a bad omen, so she ran. Kay looked worried, scolding her for going into that district alone. She brushed it off, saying her business was urgent, and told Kay to avoid such weird people. Kay agreed and left the workshop. Walking the industrial streets, a bad feeling settled. He thought if they truly had business, they'd find him directly. Tired, he decided to head home. Suddenly, his eyes sharpened. Something felt off. Kay spotted a group in a narrow alley. He figured the homeless population grew again. Their worn faces made him wonder if an underground gang war pushed them this far. Nero popped from Kay's hood, meowing for attention. Restless, the cat jabbed a paw toward a dark passage. Kay hesitated, aware of the danger, but Nero's persistence won. He apologized, admitting Nero's instincts were usually right. Kay decided to try something new, focusing dense black energy into both eyes. His vision shifted, revealing the invisible. Inverted vision activated, his left eye glowing with a dim white light. The technique worked. A glowing, rainbow-lit figure appeared in the dark alley. Kay froze. Someone had been there silently. It was Lord Luminous, a pale-haired woman in an elegant gown. Kay felt her gaze, called out. She turned, stepping into a light portal. Kay rushed, asking her to wait. His face hardened. This was his pursuer. He couldn't let a potential threat escape. With full resolve, Kay pushed through the light. The moment he crossed, his expression twisted in shock. He'd landed in a fantasy world, floating lights, massive pillars. Confused, Kay struggled to process the sudden change. Panic crept in. Moments ago, he'd been in a filthy alley. He turned back. The dark door he'd walked through was already distorting, fading. He was trapped. The mysterious woman faced him, saying he was just as interesting as she'd expected. She admitted her early reveal was unplanned, but Kay should be proud for finding her first. Kay stammered, asking her name. The woman gently introduced herself as Celestia, greeting him as Child of Black. She stood, radiating an overwhelming holy aura. Kay stared, disbelieving. Her body glowed with every color. Cold sweat ran down his back. Only one legendary figure could emit such light. Kay realized exactly who she was, Lord Luminous. Fear gripped him. He couldn't fathom why someone of that stature would come to the Shadow District for him. As he asked Celestia, that intense light triggered something strange. Kay's mind filled with dark static, his vision flooded with chaotic noise. Panic surged. His haunting voices roared back, full force, craving that light. They commanded him, seize it, claim it. Kay's eyes turned pitch black as darkness consumed his mind, forcing him to devour that light now. Celestia watched the sudden shift with curiosity. She observed Kay's black energy had abruptly consumed him. Kay struggled to stay conscious, mumbling he wasn't doing this intentionally. Celestia remained calm, even fascinated. She found it remarkable Kay hadn't died despite being consumed by such deep darkness. She compared his aura to the Black Witch, Nyx, yet Kay hadn't transformed into a monster. Celestia suspected a hidden link between Kay and the witch. She revealed city leaders wanted him gone, fearing the danger he carried. She disagreed. Her eyes lit up. She wouldn't let that happen. Kay's ability was too valuable to discard. To protect the city, black power must be used no matter the risk. It was time to get serious. Celestia gripped her staff, unleashing a massive wave of purifying light. The light pushed back Kay's darkness, sweeping over him. The dark influence vanished instantly. Kay gasped, clutching his head. The voice he'd just heard, he realized, was clearer than ever. Celestia asked if he'd heard the Black Witch herself. Kay hesitated, admitting he didn't know. Celestia laughed softly, telling him to relax. She simply wanted to meet him, having heard his story from Red. First, she had something to thank him for. Confused, Kay asked what he'd done. Celestia summoned light, revealing a glowing stella fragment. Few understood its meaning, she explained. Kay deserved thanks for retrieving such a precious item. Kay humbly replied, crediting the team. Celestia smiled. What mattered most, she insisted, was Kay himself opened the Black Witch's veil, her eyes locked on his. Did he grasp its incredible power? Kay stood frozen, speechless. Celestia then revealed something shocking. Even a luminous like her couldn't open the Black Witch's veil, only the witch could. She explained stellar fragments were scattered across the Black Lands, most sealed behind that veil. The city fought to claim them, but only recovered those that surfaced. Kay, confused, admitted he didn't understand why she told him this. He didn't know the fragment's function or immense value. Celestia realized she should have explained it first. With a meaningful smile, she knew seeing it would clarify everything. She warned him not to mention this. Only a handful knew the truth. Suddenly, their surroundings shifted. Kay jolted, finding himself on a high, glowing platform suspended in air. He stared in shock at the shining city below, encircled by a massive wall of darkness. Panic rising, Kay asked their location. Nearby, a massive, glowing castle stood. Celestia explained they were at her residence. She raised the stela fragment. Kay was the first she'd shown it to. Reaching toward the horizon, Celestia urged him to look closely. A pillar of white and rainbow light shot skyward, followed by a massive boom. Energy surged, a colossal wave of light. Kay stood frozen, eyes wide in disbelief. The Black Land's walls recoiled under its force. From the high platform, Kay watched darkness retreat, widening the city's safe zone. In the shining city, a newspaper seller shouted as flyers rained down, marking a new morning. Crowds gathered to read the news. Yesterday's miracle was the talk. Lord Luminous's pillar of light pushed back the Black Lands. For the first time in decades, humanity reclaimed territory from darkness. Optimism spread. People hoped the city would expand, becoming safer from monsters. Eyes turned to the glowing castle, wondering about the mysterious Lord Luminous, rarely seen, guarding the city's light. The expansion's effects appeared quickly. Workers and miners flocked to the new territory, seeking rare resources and once unreachable ink. In a crowded square, a man shouted, forming a pioneer squad and seeking investors. In a corner, Kay sat quietly, hood low, newspaper in hand. Nero, his black cat, munched a snack, peeking from Kay's coat. Kay figured the city's chaos made sense, given yesterday's events. Hours earlier, Kay met Celestia in her ethereal realm. Celestia explained the stella fragment he found was extraordinary, opening countless possibilities. Her tone turned serious. She warned him of the Black Hand, an organization tied to his foe, hunting the same fragments. Once they learned of Kay's power, they'd relentlessly pursue him. Noticing his unease, she reassured him. She said the city had long resisted the Black Hand, promising protection. Yet her expression dimmed, revealing the city's resources were at breaking point, just surviving the war despite celebrations. Her rainbow eyes met his. Kay was special, she said. Many would fear or exploit his power. Celestia promised to handle issues from her end, urging him to continue as a pioneer, business as usual. The meeting concluded. Kay was free to go. As Kay left, Celestia smiled warmly, enjoying their talk. Kay, still nervous around the city's leader, glanced back. Celestia promised Red's team would get deserved recognition. Later, after a full day's rest, Kay set down his newspaper. He wondered what to do next. His mind drifted to Mary, her ink supply low. Deciding to be productive, Kay left a coin for payment, contemplating a return to mining. He moved through the bustling city, blending into the crowd towards his destination. Kay reached a massive building, its entrance thronged. He paused, realizing he never thought he'd step foot here, the Pioneer Gathering Hall. He remembered when he couldn't even approach it back when he was colorless. Acknowledging the change, he pulled back his hood. He told himself he could walk in, head held high. The moment he stepped inside, the atmosphere instantly shifted. Pioneers stopped, staring at the dark-haired young man. Whispers spread fast, questioning what he was. They recognized him as the man rumored to have obtained the black color, the first to hold it. Some muttered the rumors were true. He looked even more unsettling up close. Uncomfortable stares followed him. Questions arose about why the Dawn Pioneer Squad recruited him. Across the room, gossip about his achievements spread equally fast. Some claimed his huge contribution to the first expedition would earn him a team reward. Others wondered how he caught elite colorist Red's attention. From the upper balcony, a colorist watched with sharp interest, noting the young man was pitch black. Raven told him to sit down. The colorist just smiled, curious about Red's new recruit. He turned to Arancha, recalling her recent battle, and asked if Kay was truly as strong as rumored. Arancha paused, then admitted Kay was impressive. But she also remembered a dark, unsettling shadow around him during the fight. She suggested they keep an eye on him. The colorist, instead of worrying, just smiled wider, saying that description made him even more interested. Kay stood alone on the main floor, hearing whispers of his moniker, Kay of the Black. At the front desk, he confirmed his first visit, requesting work. Noting his lack of an emblem, the receptionist handed him forms, explaining pioneers were limited to low-risk jobs, ink mining or small creature hunts. In the corner, a group watched Kay with pure hatred. One sneered at his color. Disgusting, how can a human even be black? Kay's aura feels dangerous, he griped, criticizing those hyping him up. He turned to his boss, asking for his take. The dark red-haired boss stayed silent, eyes cold, fixed on Kay as Kay finished his paperwork and turned to leave. The red-haired man glared, muttering the black-haired kid was seriously annoying. This was Kay's former examiner. His hatred had only deepened. He recalled the last mission, seeing Kay with elite colorists, and hated him ever since. To him, Kay was just a lucky rat who caught a colorist's eye and strutted around. Hearing Kay was an inexperienced rookie only fueled his burning anger. As Kay walked off, the examiner stood, signaling his group. He scoffed, believing a veteran like him, not Kay, deserved the elite squad. Maliciously, he ordered his men to follow Kay, vowing no black would ruin the city. The four grinned, agreeing to purify Kay. Meanwhile, Kay was in the wasteland before a massive black cliff, looming like a curtain. With a satisfied smile, he held up a glowing black gem. Another chromatic ore, Kay recognized it instantly. Piles of colored gems lay around him, his biggest haul yet. He smiled. After recent bad luck, this spot felt perfect. Chromatic ore, valuable as fuel and weapon material, would surely impress Mary. Picturing her happy face, he hoisted the heavy sack. His left eye glowed dark as he activated inverted vision. Thanks to this technique, Kay realized resource gathering would be much easier. Across the gray landscape, he spotted glints of color from hidden resources, invisible to normal eyes. His vision pierced through any darkness or concealment. As his energy faded, Kay reminded himself the technique burned through color fast, so he couldn't sustain it long. He joked with Nero on his shoulder, saying, "The cat wouldn't get many more turns, given his efficiency." Nero nodded, eyeing 2 full ore sacks. Kay finished the job faster than expected. Hauling this much loot back would draw unwanted attention. He decided to stall. Kay stayed in the wasteland longer before returning to the city. With the extra time, he trained his ability. With Nero on his shoulder, Kay gripped a dark gem. He pondered his main ability, Ink Drain. He recalled absorbing attacks during his exam and mission, realizing that despite needing contact, the power sometimes burst uncontrollably. Kay knew he must master this power before it jeopardized his future. He grabbed glowing blue gems, ready to experiment. Kay studied a gem, admiring its bright color and imagining its high price. As his focus deepened, his ability activated faster than intended. Dark energy spiraled around his hand, instantly draining the gem. Kay jolted in panic as the gem faded to a pale, worthless white. K yelled in frustration, cursing the heavy loss and his power for draining without permission. Despite the frustration, K quickly calmed. At least now he began to understand his power's sensation. K recalled earlier experiences, noticing a pattern. The denser the target's color, the harder his power was to control. Whispers near Celestia caught his mind. K resolved to stay alert, preventing this power's takeover. His eyes dropped to the dark energy swirling in his chest. K wondered if absorbed colors simply turned black or retained original properties, allowing different uses. A theory started forming. If black held every color, K might be like Celestius. The thought thrilled him. He could wield all colors. He focused on recalling his power's exact sensation, needing to master it for true control. He pictured red's overwhelming strength, recalling its crushing, burning aura to replicate it. Gripping a red gem, K locked his focus. Intense heat surged, burning him from within. His control slipped. The gem shattered, leaving K disappointed. Alone in the wasteland, K admitted mastering this power wouldn't be easy. He accepted big results wouldn't come overnight. Still, his resolve held firm. K trained until sunset. Hours passed. The sky darkened. K walked through a narrow gap, hauling a sack of mind ore. His breathing was heavy. Sweat soaked his clothes. K wondered if he'd been too greedy gathering so much. Mocking laughter echoed from shadows, calling him slow. K looked up, startled. 4 silhouettes blocked the exit, pioneers from the gathering hall. The red-haired man and his 3 subordinates glared hostilely. K returned the stare, confused. The boss smirked coldly. "Never expected to find the city's little celebrity here," he greeted, dripping mockery. Meanwhile, his men surrounded K in the canyon, urging him to move. K stayed calm, even as they mocked him as a clueless recruit. When K calmly asked who they were, the men took offense. But one noticed a strange glint from the sack on K's back. He stepped closer, freezing as he realized it held high-value chromatic ore. His eyes lit up, shouting the news to his boss. The red-haired man leaned back, smiling greedily. He called it good news. He eyed K, scoffing at the rookie's luck, then accused him of trying to keep it all. His gaze hardened, threatening to make K talk. On his order, a man drew a knife, warning K, "Resist and you die." K said nothing. Wordlessly, he dropped the heavy sack. The man paused, assuming K had given up. He quickly searched the hall. Raised his own smart decision. A satisfied grin spread across his face, confident K would obey. But before he could react, K moved. A hard punch landed square on his face. The boss's eyes widened, stunned. The rookie struck first. The hit sent his man flying backward. K clenched his fist, letting out an irritated breath. Even as a pioneer, he thought, he still dealt with such people. K shifted into a fighting stance, eyes darkening. He told them to stop wasting his time and attack all at once. Mary waited. Enraged, the red-jacketed man charged, knife raised, screaming insults. He thrust, but K calmly sidestepped. Seizing the opening, K struck his opponent's face. The impact sent him crashing into the canyon wall, helpless. Instantly, K shifted focus, sensing an attack from his blind spot. A bulky man in a green jacket lunged with a heavy punch. K caught his fist, stopping the attack cold. K twisted his wrist, swept his legs, slamming him to the ground. Without hesitation, K landed a final punch, knocking him out cold. K stood over him, declaring, "Touch another's stuff, pay the price." His gaze shifted to the last enemy. Instantly, his eyes widened. A red energy bullet streaked toward him. K spun, barely dodging. The shot slammed into the rock wall, leaving a smoking crater. K stared at the damage. The attack came without warning. The destruction revealed this weapon's brutal penetration power. This guy used a long-range dropper. The red-haired boss smirked, surprised K dodged his sneak attack. He stepped forward, gripping his massive smoking weapon, complaining the shot should have ended K instantly. His eyes burned with hatred. He confessed he'd hated K from the start, closing in, jealousy seething. He'd always coveted an S-rank core spot, he ranted, finding it utterly unfair that some black-colored guy just waltzed in as if handed connections. He couldn't grasp why the first black holder was treated specially. He imagined K alongside elite colorists, and instant disgust washed over him. That repulsive color. Infuriated by the attention, his grip on the weapon tightened. He'd changed his mind. Breaking bones wasn't enough. He'd kill K. He aimed the massive weapon forward, his crazed grin widening. "No one out here will know what happened," he snarled. "I'll finish K off right here." He pulled the trigger. Red energy bullets tore through the area. K moved instantly, weaving through the deadly barrage, pushing forward. He skimmed low, barely grazed. K closed in, swinging a hard punch. The boss barely dodged. A chaotic close-range brawl ensued. The boss fired wildly. K dodged, striking back. Frustrated, the boss cursed, yelling at K to back off. His weapon began to glow. Instead of K, the boss blasted the ground. Jagged red crystal shards burst out, forcing K to leap back. K stared, stunned, wondering what kind of attack this was. Its crystal structure alone told him this wasn't a normal bullet. The red-haired boss revealed his power, crystallization, creating ruby and hematite. He boasted a dropper let him produce endless deadly ammo. Crystal shards rained down as he screamed his power was on a different level, unlike an impurity like black. K jumped behind a large rock formation. Behind cover, he held his ground, admitting dropper users were a pain. K sized up his opponent, estimating him a B-rank pioneer. He considered him trash, yet admitted his real ability. His eyes dropped to his black energy-wrapped fist. K considered absorbing the bullets, but hesitated. Black energy coating wasn't always perfect, he reminded himself. The memory of fighting the sword demon surfaced. K realized absorbing an attack without a plan could be fatal. Suddenly, a massive shadow fell. The big man in the green jacket downed earlier was back, grabbing K from behind. K spun, startled, but too late, his legs were locked. K kicked the man's face repeatedly, screaming for release, but the grip held firm. Bloodied, the man shouted to his boss, K's pinned, shoot. The red-haired boss smiled cruelly, praising his subordinate. Seeing his chance, he aimed his weapon at the trapped K with a furious scream. He pulled the trigger, firing point-blank. K's eyes widened, knowing dodging was impossible. The red energy bullet struck his head directly. The boss cheered, certain his enemy was dead. He waited for the smoke to clear, expecting a body. Instead, heavy footsteps echoed. K stood, head low. The boss's face changed, confusion spreading. He stammered in disbelief as K approached. K lifted his head, terror struck him. A red energy swirl on K's forehead swallowed the bullet. K felt relief, his absorption ability kicked in. The red-haired boss froze, insisting his shot hit K's head. He stared in horror as K walked forward, unharmed. Panic took over, he screamed. He called K insane, demanding his death, and pulled the trigger repeatedly. A barrage of shots slammed into K's body. As the dust settled, the boss could only stare at a silhouette, dark red and black. K mocked him, asking why he stopped, daring him to keep using his power. The red-haired boss clenched his teeth, anger and fear tangling. His attacks useless, he stared at the terrifying figure. Cold sweat ran down his face. K decided to show his true power. A black curtain formed, trapping red energy bullets in dark swirls on his chest, slowly absorbing. With a threatening smile, K declared the enemy's attack spent. His turn now. The boss shouted K was bluffing. No one could take bullets with that penetration and walk away fine. He raised his weapon again, telling himself even if absorbed. Despite likely internal damage, K remained calm. To his foe, he was just a target. Bullets posed no real threat, but the cost was high. Defense consumed far more color than absorbed. Careless use would drain him too fast. He needed to eliminate the dropper, requiring a new approach to close the distance. He muttered about a new trick, confusing the red-haired boss. K picked up a red crystal shard, aiming to copy his opponent's ability. Black energy instantly surged, transforming it into a long, jagged black spear. The red-haired boss froze, stunned. K eyed his new weapon, satisfied. He explained the spear covered his ranged weakness, having absorbed the enemy's attack and grasped the essence of crystallization, the power to compress color into solid form, with a mocking expression. K thanked him for the lesson, then hurled the massive spear. The boss panicked, leaping aside as the spear slammed down with a boom. Furious, he screamed, firing back a barrage of red energy bullets, but K was ready. He spun his black spear, deflecting bullets, sparks flying as black crystal clashed against red energy. K smiled confidently, his chest's dark swirl absorbing any impact. They mocked his wasted effort. K, deciding to make this practice, gripped his spear and charged, declaring his foe his new test dummy. He leapt with surprising agility. As he dropped, the red-haired boss looked up, face filled with panic. K slammed his weapon, unleashing a massive burst of black crystal spikes, mimicking the boss's earlier attack. The boss stared in pure terror, unable to believe it. He realized with horror. K perfectly copied his crystallization ability. K smirked. Another form? Black energy shifted. The spear morphed into a massive, curved black blade. K swung it horizontally at the dropper. The boss froze, eyes wide. He looked down, his weapon's front barrel sliced clean off. He went rigid, unable to process its destruction in one swing by a non-dropper. Cold sweat streamed down his face. How could his weapon be so easily destroyed? As K approached, fear consumed the boss. He realized Black's power was incomprehensible, making K appear monstrous. K felt the strain of his last attack. He clenched his fist, puzzled by his poor energy efficiency. Tired, K steadied himself, deciding the cost was worth the destructive power. He mocked the now unarmed boss. Asked what he'd do, the red-haired boss growled. Refusing to yield, he screamed at K to drop the attitude, unleashing red energy. He roared about clawing his way to rank B as sharp red crystals erupted. K's eyes widened, realizing he'd underestimated him. Boss roared, shooting wasn't all. He charged, jagged stones swirling, reminding K his ruby-creating color. Recklessly grinning, he vowed to kill K here, dropper or not. Red crystal shards rained down terrifyingly fast. K met the attack head-on, smashing through the projectiles with bare fists. Black energy swirled, forming a massive, heavy shield around his arm. Red crystals slammed the black barrier repeatedly, but none broke through. K seized the opening, driving his black shield through the storm of red energy. He tore through crystal debris, rapidly closing the distance. The red-haired boss froze, watching his defense crumble as K charged. His face twisted in shock, realizing his guard was broken. K spun, delivering a hard punch to the boss's ribs. It landed clean. The boss screamed, blood spraying from his mouth. Before he could collapse, K grabbed his collar, lifted him, and slammed him to the ground with brutal force. The red-haired boss lay helpless, coughing and gasping. K looked down, asking if he was finally done acting up. K complained he'd had a busy day, blaming the boss for wasting his energy for nothing. The boss's eyes went wide. Fear and disbelief flooded his expression. He stammered, unable to grasp a rookie's terrifying power. K stared down, dismissive, asking if that was all. Terrified, the boss screamed. He spat, calling K a monster, his black skin disgusting, his ability unnatural. K stayed silent as the man insisted he wasn't normal. With a crazed look, the boss asked if K felt strange. He laughed hysterically, calling K a monster in human guise, screaming he wasn't human. K went quiet, his face sinking into shadow. The red-haired boss froze, confused by K's sudden silence. Confusion turned to terror as he saw the dark figure looming. K tilted his head, black eyes glowing wide, piercing the darkness without empathy. The boss's body shook violently, panic taking over. Breaking the tension, K smiled coldly, asking what exactly the man was fussing about. The red-haired boss trembled uncontrollably as K mocked him. Why argue after attacking with intent to kill? Enough. K grabbed his collar, choked, and pinned him. K stated Minstons want his ability. He'd show him exactly what it felt like. He calmly reasoned they wanted his power, so he'd take theirs. The boss stammered in fear, unable to grasp what was happening. Ignoring pleas, K activated his ability. A violent swirl of black energy ripped the red from the boss's body. Screams of agony echoed as his power was torn away. K sat atop the unconscious bodies, lost in thought. He'd planned to leave the red-haired boss and his men, but he realized this could cause problems later. People were already wary of his black energy. If these men died, rumors of him being a power-stealing monster could spread fast. Worried, K searched the boss's bag, finding a small bottle of shimmering red personal ink, a valuable recovery item. K forced the liquid down their throats, ensuring they regained enough color to survive. K then dragged the beaten men across the rocky terrain. At Shining City's busy eastern gate, a guard investigated a strange noise, finding the red-haired boss and his men tied up. Wounded, dumped like a package. The guard frowned, confused by their paleness. Hidden nearby, K breathed a quiet sigh of relief. He hadn't been caught. When the guard called for a hall gathering, K knew giving them the ink was the right call. He hoped the incident would be brushed aside. He walked through the city, heavy sack slung over his shoulder. If anything went wrong, he figured the captain would back him up. K reached Mary's workshop. She was already deep in work when he walked in. Mary asked where he'd been. K apologized, explaining he was on a request. He then grinned, revealing something special. Opening the sack, he revealed dazzling chromatic ore, leftovers from a job saved just for her. Mary cheered, pulling him into a tight hug, calling him the best. K laughed as she stepped back, beaming, promising to use every piece well. That's when K noticed a strange shimmer around him. He remembered the green light he'd once seen from Gale. He sensed a warm glow from Mary, her bright smile carrying ore, making everything feel lighter. K recalled their slum childhood. She always smiled, even then. That warm, bright color suited her. Mary's excitement spiked. She had a secret project, a custom dropper just for him. K's eyes went wide. Mary boasted her skills improved. With this quality ore, the weapon would be even better. The workshop door opened, heavy footsteps. A voice announced K was back. Ellie Cyan walked in, figuring she'd find him here. Kay jumped. He asked what brought her and Gale, warning them not to start anything again. Gale drew his sword, complaining he couldn't fight right now. Ellie cut him off. Get to the point. The Dawn Pioneering Corps summoned them, she explained. Lord Luminous praised their mission, offering rewards. The highest authority's name stunned Kay and Mary instantly grasping the gravity. She urged Kay to go now. He hesitated. She smiled. Save the surprise. The dropper will be perfect when you return. Kay smiled back, anticipating. At Dawn Pioneering Corps HQ, Raven led Kay, Gale, and Ellie through a corridor. Inside for the first time, Kay stared at glowing specimens and framed certificates on the walls. Raven stopped at large double doors, then ushered them in. Kay stepped into a wide office. Behind the desk, a woman with a warm smile introduced herself as Camellia, the Corps captain. Kay froze, unable to believe he stood before the legendary multicolor holder, only read about. Camellia told them to relax, explaining she'd called them in. Surprised Colorist Red spoke highly of his new recruits. Her attention shifted to Kay, noting his existence as the first black color holder made higher-ups uneasy. Her composure instantly broke as she choked on her tea, yelling, "It's way too bitter." Raven scolded her for ruining the mood. Camellia quickly turned serious, moving to rewards. Each would receive a personal safe. Raven presented a tray with 3 payment cards. Taking the cards, all 3 froze at the number. Kay's hands shook. He realized that much money could buy a house outright. Camellia then handed them rank C Pioneer IDs, explaining their proven skills. The probation period was skipped entirely. Finally, Camellia announced the final reward. The renowned chromatic workshop would build them each a custom dropper. All 3 went silent, stunned. Ellie, in disbelief, asked if she meant that asterisk workshop where even nobles struggled for a slot. Camellia laughed, explaining a VIP client was the core and it was the city's best. Gale and Ellie could barely contain their excitement. Camellia officially welcomed all 3 into the Dawn Pioneering Corps, promising full support. Her tone then shifted. She mentioned the recovered fragment, revealing it was extremely important, tied directly to the city's survival. With a meaningful smile, she expressed anticipation for their next move. Later, Kay stood before a massive building adorned with gear-shaped designs. Satisfaction settled over him after the day's events. He grinned at Nero, joking that lately. Only good things seemed to be happening. Kay recalled making rank C, grateful to be a pioneer. Approaching Mary's workshop, he couldn't wait to share his news. He stopped. A bad feeling from the slightly ajar door. Kay slowly pushed it open, calling Mary's name. What he saw froze him. The workshop was destroyed, tools scattered, pipes snapped, debris covered the floor. Kay stood frozen in the doorway, eyes wide. Shock and horror crashed over him, staring at his best friend's ruined workshop. At Shining City's eastern base, colorists fought endless waves of monsters from the Black Lands. Squads focused on the largest monsters, desperate to halt the assault before defenses fell. This strange phenomenon had gone on too long. Many wondered when it would finally end. Under such pressure, they could only hold the line against endless monsters. From above, Viper watched with interest. Their struggle was entertaining. In her view, if they couldn't hold off this minor attack, they weren't a threat. Still, this monster wave was too weak. If the Black Witch truly caused this chaos, damage should be far worse. Endlessly sending low-level monsters won't bring the city down. To truly destroy Shining City, a game-changing move was essential. Viper decided to re-enter, ready for the next phase. Nearby, the casually leaning sword demon finally spoke, calling Viper's plan suicide. Viper simply brushed it off. The sword demon remembered nothing, clueless about the actual situation, yet Viper still offered a brief explanation. Beneath Shining City, a hidden, narrow path led directly to the Black Land. It was usable. Deep underground, they'd found something extremely useful, the Undercity. Meanwhile, Kay frantically searched for Mary. Room, workshop, she was gone. The conclusion was painfully clear. Mary had been kidnapped. Kay's mind raced, if history repeated. He didn't know if he could hold back the despair that would follow. Nero slipped from his shadow, landing on the workbench. The cat pointed to Mary's mark. Sensing importance, Kay used inverted sight. His suspicion was right. The object's glow matched the trail he'd seen. A faint path stretched from it, leading away. Following that trail now mattered more than anything. He was deeply worried about Mary's safety, but emotions now would only cloud his judgment. Kay forced himself calm, piecing everything together. The kidnappers were almost certainly the mysterious organization hunting him, using Mary as bait to lure him out. These city trash had started this fight. Kay silently swore, "Mary, hold on." But behind that resolve, his eyes held barely hidden malice. He grabbed Mary's gauntlet and put it on. The device fit perfectly, making his ink use far more efficient. A long fight no longer worried him. With Nero perched on his shoulder, Kay set off immediately. He passed through dark alleys, beggars, and street thugs. The trail led him to an underground entrance. Kay quickly noticed another path nearby. He now understood the sudden spike in vagrants there, but before he could move, someone emerged from the shadows. The green-haired man he'd defeated stood there, smugly smiling. He felt lucky he'd waited. He hoped Kay remembered his face after the ink incident. Their relationship was clearly not good and their business wasn't finished. Kay demanded Mary's location. The man arrogantly refused. He wouldn't yield information to polite requests. He didn't know Kay's trick but remembered his life shattering after that defeat. To reclaim a sliver of his lost glory, he'd clawed up from the bottom, surviving on low-level tasks, fueled by vengeance. His day had come. Lord Blank ordered Kay brought in alive, but no one said his body had to remain intact. Hearing this, Kay wasted no time. He immediately formed a sharp, jagged ink blade. The men charged, but Kay moved first. Merciless strikes took them down. The green-haired man attacked with Juan's spoit, but his attack was instantly crushed. Kay swiftly pinned him. Their positions had completely flipped since their last encounter. Honestly, Kay didn't enjoy hurting people. Kidnappers using innocents as hostages deserve no mercy. Some may be disabled for life, others never walk again. But these are consequences of their own choices. They even call themselves pioneers. Kay believes those who stoop so low don't deserve that name. They don't even deserve the light's blessing. Kay then drained the green-haired man of all color, dragging him as a guide. He needed someone who knew the way down. Soon. Kay plunged into the Undercity, a place he swore he'd never revisit. Through the dark tunnel, Kay pushed the colorless man, ordering him onward. He warned against any foolishness. Yet even pitiful, the man dared to speak. He mocked Kay for challenging Zed, calling it a death wish. Kay instantly grabbed his throat. Kay found him too talkative, not knowing his place. He ordered him to shut up and keep moving. Otherwise, he'd kill him and dump the body here. If Mary got hurt, even a scratch, this man's life was forfeit. They moved deeper into Undercity. Looking around, Kay realized something. Nothing here had changed. The Undercity, a shadow beneath the city's lights where Luminous's glow never reached. Without law or oversight, it became a haven for criminal groups. The Colorless, with nowhere else, survived in the underground mines, their only means of survival. This place also held Kay's unforgettable memories, his first meeting with Mary. Meanwhile, his guide still couldn't grasp Kay's actions. Kay didn't care what he thought. The man's job was simple, lead him to the hideout. If Kay walked into a trap, that wasn't his problem. To him, Undercity was Kay's grave. As expected, they soon reached a wide-open area. The man stopped. Moments later, dozens emerged from every direction. One grumbled about waiting so long, practically growing roots. But their attention snapped to Kay, their eyes widened at his black ink. To them, Kay was a valuable chunk of ore, willingly walking into their trap. Soon, a leader stepped forward, pleased their target had arrived. The man who guided Kay immediately knelt, reporting his assignment complete. But the leader's attention shifted. He noticed the man's color was gone again. Hadn't he declared colorless people useless? The man quickly apologized, attempting to explain. The leader wasn't interested. His chance was gone. His usefulness ended. Without hesitation, the leader swung his weapon, severing the man's head. He wouldn't waste time on useless trash. Kay watched it all unfold, expressionless. Such scenes were clearly not new. His gaze shifted to the leader. The man hadn't changed since their last meeting, but Kay only cared about one thing. Where was Mary? Kay's question caught the leader off guard. Even now, Kay spoke as if unaware of who held power. The leader felt Kay should think carefully. About his position. If he'd cooperated from the start, this would be over. The longer Kay refused, the lower his chances of finding Mary became. His subordinates might lack competence, but they weren't useless. And who knew what Mary was enduring right now? Hearing this, Kay's expression instantly darkened. If they wouldn't talk, he'd simply destroy this entire place. Black ink gathered around his hand, forming a massive fist. The pressure was terrifying. A moment later, Kay leaped high, slamming his giant fist into the ground with all his strength. A massive explosion shook the entire area. The ground trembled violently. Inside the hideout, someone rushed to a leader, reporting the emergency. Their black ink target was rampaging through the base. They needed his help immediately. The leader quickly ordered his men to hold Kay back as long as possible until he arrived. By then, the outcome was clear. They were completely overwhelmed. Gang members fell one after another under Kay's attacks. No one could stop him. Some wondered what kind of monster he was. Soon the leader they'd called arrived. He saw the chaos, demanding an explanation. The previous leader felt instant relief. The newcomer was their branch leader, a fighter who'd once reached pioneer rank A. The branch leader wasn't impressed. He was disappointed. They couldn't even capture one person. Zed, Undercity's ruler, had his reputation trashed that day. To him, every subordinate was useless. Kay instantly realized this branch leader was far stronger than the rest. The previous leader also regained his confidence. In his view, Kay, no matter how talented, couldn't defeat a veteran who'd survived countless battles. Reality, unfortunately, defied his expectations. The branch leader charged, throwing a heavy punch at Kay. Kay easily dodged. Then Kay launched a rapid series of counterattacks. The attacks caused little damage but impressed the branch leader. Kay's abilities exceeded expectations, so he decided to reveal his true strength. A devastating punch shot forward. The impact slammed Kay, sending him crashing through a building. Yet when the dust settled, Kay stood, barely injured. The branch leader attacked again. Kay dodged, firing an incwave blast. The attack felt strange. Color seemed forcibly pulled from his body. He quickly realized the ability's danger. Without hesitation, he unleashed his full power. A massive aura erupted, forcing Kay to back away. The branch leader openly hated such abilities. Kay's disgusting black color was already trouble, now combined with strange, incomprehensible techniques. He didn't know what other powers Kay hid, so he decided to stop holding back. Controlling that power was harder than he remembered. Years had passed since he last used it. Meanwhile, Kay eyed him with undisguised contempt. An opponent like this still wasn't enough, the way he'd fought so far. His attacks couldn't breach the man's defenses. He needed something sharper, stronger, durable enough to shatter his opponent's armor. Suddenly, black ink exploded from Kay's body, unleashing an incredibly cold, killing intent across the area. Even the branch leader felt a terrifying, unprecedented bloodlust. Kay then activated Arsenal of Malice. Instantly, the area filled with countless weapons forged from black ink. Attacks came relentlessly, non-stop. The branch leader gritted his teeth in frustration. He had no idea what power he faced. Kay used every weapon in his domain to maintain pressure. Slowly, he forced the branch leader back, but it didn't stop. Kay attacked relentlessly, giving him no opening. Weapons switched at unbelievable speed. A spear shot forward, then a massive axe crashed down repeatedly. Kay discarded the axe, instantly drawing a pair of blades. The sharp blades repeatedly slashed the branch leader. Stunned, the branch leader found his reinforced body meaningless against Kay's weapons. The ink weapons weren't durable, yet each possessed terrifying sharpness. Still, as one of Zed's executives, he refused to lose to a kid like Kay. Blank's orders no longer mattered. He channeled his full colorist power, transforming his fist into a condensed mass of sharp stone. He lunged, unleashing a killing blow. The attack was too fast for Kay to dodge. The impact ripped through buildings before stopping, but as the dust settled, the branch leader froze. Kay was still standing. He hadn't just endured it, he was absorbing it. The truth hit him. Creating weapons wasn't Kay's only power. As the fight continued, Kay revealed more powers. Still, the branch leader believed he could win. He just needed one more chance to use his color. That confidence vanished instantly. Black ink suddenly clung to his face, then crawled into his eye. His vision blurred. Kay seized the opportunity. A powerful uppercut smashed the branch leader's chin. His body flew, crashing heavily to the ground. He tried to rise. He realized something was terribly wrong. His strength vanished too fast. It made no sense. Such an attack shouldn't have felled him. Then he understood poison. Kay didn't care. This was a fight to the death, no mercy for enemies. The branch leader could no longer resist the color absorption. It drained from his body. The vice leader and thugs stood in shock. Their bodies trembled, witnessing their branch leader's utter defeat. Kay at that moment seemed less human, more demon. Having dealt with the branch leader, Kay slowly turned his gaze to the remaining gang leader. His intentions were clear. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Mary slowly opened her eyes. She found herself trapped in an unfamiliar, empty room. Someone greeted Mary with a satisfied smile, admitting he'd waited a long time for her to wake. He found both Mary and Kay incredibly interesting. Who'd expect a colorless person to awaken such a rare hue? But Kay's transformation surprised him even more. The man he knew never had this much humanity. Mary recognized the voice instantly, Blank, a man from her past. Blank smiled, realizing she still remembered him. It had been ages since their last meeting. Mary stared in disbelief, as far as she knew. Blank should have died in that incident years ago. He merely laughed. When everything collapsed, he was nearly buried alive, almost dying, but luck was on his side. He survived, and fate reunited them. The reunion brought back old memories. To Blank, they were his first test subjects. Though he nearly died, he had grown far beyond his past self. His abilities were now recognized even by Zed's highest leadership. He was now a top executive. Blank told Mary to follow him, eager to show his research progress. A massive door opened. The sight beyond it froze Mary's expression. A huge lab stretched out. Colorless people were treated like livestock. Numerous ink beasts were caged, used as experimental materials. Mary's heart almost stopped. She never imagined such a nightmare existed. Soon, a researcher brought a report. The latest extract shipment had arrived. Blank looked pleased, stating the timing was perfect. Mary couldn't hold back, demanding why he persisted with his past actions. Blank seemed genuinely confused. To him, something so extraordinary was meant to be used. Leaving it untouched would be the true sin. He then proudly welcomed Mary to his newest extraction lab. Meanwhile, chaos spread through Undercity. People scattered, most assuming it was just another gang fight. The truth was simpler. One person, K, caused it all. After countless corridors, K reached a large open area. He immediately asked the gang leader if Mary was there. The man nodded fearfully. Mary was inside. Believing he'd given K the information, he hoped for release. K answered with a heavy punch. The man slammed into the wall, blood spurting. K called Nero, ordering the cat to find Mary's location. Nero immediately led the way. Just then, more thugs swarmed from all directions, charging K. K couldn't waste time fighting them. Every second increased Mary's danger. Fortunately, he had an idea. K replicated the branch leader's technique. His simple goal, destroy every obstacle with a single attack. A massive power burst erupted, blowing thugs back instantly. None could stop him. Walls shattered as K forced his way toward his destination. Meanwhile, Mary watched the madness in the lab, convinced Blank had completely lost his mind. Mary couldn't understand him. To her, he merely repeated past cruelties, devoid of guilt. Blank, however, looked confused by her reaction. He genuinely didn't grasp her anger. He saw no reason for tension, feeling indebted to them all. His research succeeded thanks to past experimental subjects. Blank then invited Mary to observe the process in his lab. He believed seeing it firsthand was easier than any explanation. On one side, two guards dragged a colorless man toward a giant extraction device. The man struggled desperately, screaming in fear, refusing to enter. His hands gripped the doorway with all his strength, but it didn't matter. The guards forced him inside. The iron door slammed shut. The machine began to shake, then produced a horrifying sound. Moments later, a thick red liquid flowed from the device. Its color, so dark, resembled blood. For Mary, the sight froze time. The same horror, the same cruelty remained. Blank, meanwhile, admired the extracted color. To him, it was the most beautiful color. Now he could produce a much purer version than ever before. When he began these experiments, his abilities were imperfect. He couldn't extract any color. Every sample from Mary was wasted. But these failures led to a new possibility. He'd previously noted some awaken their color much later. This idea caught his attention. It made him wonder, what if hidden potential in every living being could be forcibly extracted? The experiment succeeded and wasn't limited to humans. Other creatures could be treated similarly. Blank claimed that once worthless things could yield extraordinary colors. He believed these colors embodied the soul and true identity of every living being. Now, he could take them at will. To him, this was a gift to the world. He thought he was revealing possibilities that would otherwise stay hidden forever. Years of relentless research and his extraction ability finally brought the results he sought. He still sought new uses for extracted colors. His latest discovery was a breakthrough. It enabled control of color-reverse monsters. The method was incomplete, yet results were promising. Mary could only look at him with disgust. To her, everyone there had lost their minds. They'd just forced a living person into an extraction machine, treating him as an object. Worst of all, no one seemed to think it was wrong. Mary couldn't believe their calm after such cruelty. She was certain Shining City would never permit this. Blank expected that reaction, but he never truly understood what others deemed wrong. Perhaps his thinking had diverged too far for most to grasp. The explanation only fueled Mary's rage. She instantly branded him a murderer. To Mary, Blank wasn't saving souls, just offing people for obsession. If he loved color extraction so much, he should extract his own. She was convinced his color was corrupted by the sick pleasure he got from it. For the first time, Blank's expression subtly shifted. But the reaction didn't last long. He soon shook his head. Mary was mistaken, he claimed. He'd long performed extractions on himself. He'd never create anything without testing it on himself first. The lab's contents were built on years of sacrifice and dedication. Upon completion, he added a part of himself to the result. That's why his color had changed. Blank then revealed a carefully preserved container. He was saving it for the future, perhaps useful someday. Mary immediately cut him off. "Stop talking, I'm not listening to more nonsense." Blank just chuckled, apologizing. "Got a little carried away," he admitted. But before leaving, one more thing, reports show Kay has entered Undercity. Bringing Mary there was the right call ever since. Kay always followed Mary like a shadow. As expected, with Mary's kidnapping, Kay appeared. There was no better bait. Blank was confident his subordinates were already capturing Kay. Black ink or not, facing so many enemies alone would be difficult. He ordered guards to take Mary away. They would meet again once Kay arrived. Blank still had preparations for his special guest. He even planned a special banquet for Kay. Then the facility shook. A powerful explosion above shattered the ceiling, raining debris as someone forced their way in. Mary immediately recognized the figure. Kay had finally arrived. Meanwhile, elsewhere, an advisor reviewed a report with Camellia and others. It stated Kay had entered Undercity, now at war with the Z organization. According to Undercity agents, Kay was tearing through Z branches, rescuing his kidnapped friend. The advisor immediately turned to Camellia, who had initially asked everyone to trust Kay. Camellia explained they had acted swiftly once the situation escalated, even sending observers to track Kay's movements. She wasn't just sitting around doing nothing. She also noted the city's abnormal state. The strange border phenomenon had forced nearly all combat units to reinforce the defensive line. Requesting aid from other pioneer units was now extremely difficult. Everyone competed for resources just to survive and keep Shining City standing. The advisor then asked about Red. Camellia explained Collector and Jester had appeared at another fortress, forcing Red to move first and intercept them. The report solidified the advisor's belief that Blackhand was linked to the region's strange events. Before further investigation, peacekeepers had to enter Undercity. Their priority was securing the situation and Kay's safety. Not everyone agreed. A senior colorist urged caution, arguing that deploying troops into Undercity was extremely dangerous. Such a move might provoke countless criminal groups operating beneath the city. Some of those groups might be traitors needing eventual elimination, but their strength was considerable. Many gang members were experienced former pioneers. If this escalated to open war, the city would descend into chaos. He still didn't trust Kay. The council's decision had silenced him before, but seeing the current destruction, his concerns felt justified. The more he considered Kay's black ink. His worry grew. What if that color brought disaster? This was their chance to remove the threat before it was too late. Hudson understood, yet insisted on their agreed plan. Kay was vital, the only one capable of uncovering many hidden secrets. His value was too important to ignore. They must protect him, no matter what. Luminous also saw Kay's enormous potential. Hudson placed his hopes on the future the young man might build. If things went wrong, he was prepared to take full responsibility and personally handle the consequences. The old colorist fell silent for a long moment, then sighed. He always respected Hudson. Despite an ordinary color, Hudson had risen to advisor. But he never expected him to become so rational it seemed almost unreasonable. Hudson only smiled and apologized. He vowed to meet those expectations. Camellia quickly eased the tension, explaining Hudson had already taken precautions. Alongside peacekeepers, she'd also dispatched Red's team. These talented fighters had proven themselves on their first expedition. This would significantly boost their success chances. Hearing this, the advisor finally sighed, then ordered immediate movement. The situation demanded a clean resolution, one that spared the city. Deep beneath Undercity, Blank stood frozen, utterly confused. He couldn't grasp how Kay had breached every defense layer to reach his lab. This outcome was entirely unexpected. Meanwhile, Kay's focus was solely on Mary. He barely registered the surrounding enemies. All he saw was Mary and her urgent need for rescue. They had to be neutralized before another defense formed. Kay immediately activated Arsenal of Malice. Dozens of ink blades tore through the lab, forcing personnel to retreat. The blades also shattered many large containers. Amid the chaos, Kay charged, knocking down the 2 guards escorting Mary. Reaching her, he apologized for his delay, asking if she'd waited too long. Just then, Nero leaped into Mary's arms. Mary smiled in relief, patting Nero's head. She told Kay not to worry, she should be thanking him for saving her. The imprisoned Colorless immediately seized their chance to escape, knowing this was their best opportunity. Blank merely sighed in disappointment. He still had many experiments to conduct. Losing a few test subjects wasn't a major problem, he could always find more. Blank's interest was K, ages since they last met. He was excited K awakened his color and surprised he survived. Blank found K truly unique. Seeing him now, his curiosity only grew. He yearned to see how brightly K's color would shine. K stared, then asked Mary who the man was. The face felt familiar. Mary immediately explained. The man was Blank, the one who'd used them as experimental subjects, draining them mercilessly. K finally understood. Blank had survived the destruction. Blank feigned offense at their conversation, complaining it was rude to talk about him as if he weren't present. Still, he had no interest in meaningless talk. Both sides wanted something, so they might as well begin the experiment immediately as fellow researchers. Blank smashed 2 color containers. Glass shattered, strange liquid spread. K was clueless, but Mary instantly recognized it, a monster attractant. She warned him. Blank, with a chilling smile, confirmed. He preferred not to dirty his hands. If monsters couldn't kill K, they'd wear him down. Moments later, massive gates opened throughout the lab. Dozens of monsters flooded the area, but Blank's plan went sideways. K charged, slicing through them one by one. Monsters fell before they could even resist. Their overwhelming numbers meant nothing. They couldn't stop him. Meanwhile, Blank spotted an ink dagger on the ground. He slowly picked it up. Discarding such a valuable research subject felt like a huge waste. Usually, a color's power would fade with use. Blank believed the outcome would differ if he handled it. He activated his extraction ability. The dagger's black ink flowed towards him. He obtained it. K's black was now in his hands. Curiosity filled him. He wanted to understand what made K's darkness unique. The amount wasn't large, but for Blank it was enough. He was eager to see K's true power limits. Mary watched the battle, quickly sensing the danger. Normally, K would instantly wipe out such monsters, but not now. He'd already spent too much color just reaching this place. If he kept pushing, his body might collapse before the fight's end. If only he could absorb pigment from the monsters, his strength would recover faster. Mary knew she had to act. Her eyes found mixed ink from Blank's shattered containers on the floor and a nearby generator. Mary immediately got to work. She adjusted the device, then reconnected its power. Ready, she warned K not to touch the floor. She drove 2 metal conductors into the ground. Electricity instantly surged across the entire area. The energy wave swept through the monster horde, paralyzing them instantly. This single act proved Mary was no burden. Blank could only watch in disappointment, his proud creations wiped out. K immediately seized the opening, pressing his hand to the ground. The fallen monster's power flowed directly into his body. His nearly exhausted reserves recovered at once. Blank's eyes widened. So this was Black Ink's true power. Witnessing it firsthand was far more terrifying than imagined. Even monsters were reduced to mere sustenance for it. K completely ignored the rant. He charged forward, asking if Blank was finally done talking. Blank blocked the attack with his mechanical arm. He stated every research project faces obstacles. Unfortunately, direct combat was never his specialty. His extraction ability wasn't designed for close-range fighting, which is why he'd prepared something else. Blank attached 2 more color vials to his gauntlet, accessing their stored power. He claimed he and K were similar. K's obsession with others' colors to him mirrored his own, which K denied. Green energy surged through Blank. He launched a rapid attack, but K easily blocked it. The battle resumed, every clash shaking the laboratory. Blank persisted in persuading K during their fight. He believed their collaboration would reveal his research's true value. Blank felt pursuing the ultimate beauty of color together would be far more interesting. K's absorption and his extraction abilities could unlock the truth Blank had sought for years. Blank claimed K possessed a unique gift he lacked, the ability to touch pure color. Blank charged again, demanding K's power. The attack landed directly on K, but instead of being overwhelmed, K absorbed the energy. K immediately seized the opening, countering with a powerful punch. Blank was sent flying into a wall, coughing blood. The injury only fascinated him. He never expected K to absorb color so effortlessly in combat. Their abilities seemed similar, yet the gap was immense. This pushed Blank to his final card. He pulled out the vial of black ink from K's dagger. He then injected it directly into his arm without hesitation. K questioned the reckless act. To K, Blank seemed tired of living. Blank disagreed. He said he only wanted more research data. Besides, the black ink was K's. Even if it killed him, the results would be more interesting. Black ink slowly spread through his body, and he endured it. Though a tiny fragment of K's original color, its power was astonishing. Blank's right arm transformed completely into black ink. His right eye changed too. He stared at the transformation in pure admiration. This power was extraordinary to him. The more he experienced it, the harder it became to suppress his desire for battle. Soon, the two exchanged blows once again. Blank could barely believe what he was feeling. Using the black ink, everything became clearer. For the first time, he felt he truly understood K's color. He offered the partnership again. This meeting felt too perfect, no coincidence. But K rejected him immediately, claiming they were nothing alike. Blank simply laughed. He still believed they were more alike than K let on. Or maybe K kept rejecting him because of Mary. Then Blank brought up something else. He claimed K lacked a true identity. K wandered his life, absorbing others' colors. Blank saw his hidden emptiness, calling it K's true identity. Though it sounded insulting, Blank insisted he wasn't mocking. He found K unusually honest about his desires. Whenever K saw another's color, he grew jealous. He wanted to make it his own. His current appearance and color, weren't they the direct result? Blank saw K always acting for his own goals. That's how he perceived it. Blank couldn't grasp why K insisted on living like an ordinary human. To him, it was just pointless pretense. Blank still agreed. To him, K was one of the few who truly accepted him. His words cracked K's calm facade, but before he could continue, a wrench flew, smashing into his head. Mary stood annoyed. She told Blank to stop talking nonsense. Who was he to claim he understood K's life? He'd only seen a small piece of K's childhood, nothing more. Mary wouldn't let Blank compare himself to K. He was insane. How dare he, treating people like disposable tools, compare himself to K? K never copied anyone. He fought to become better. Blank would never understand K's journey. K was different, yes, but still human. Blank had no right to look down on him. To Mary, Blank was nothing but a disgusting psychopath, a piece of trash. K turned, a faint smile gracing his lips as a tremendous surge of power erupted. Blank was shocked. K's strength still defied all expectations. K thanked Mary, then shot forward. A devastating punch slammed into Blank, shattering his black ink fist. Blank's body couldn't withstand such power. K seized the opportunity, pouring his remaining strength into a final attack. The massive blow shattered the ground like a giant spiderweb. The battle was over. Mary rushed to K, worried he was injured. K assured her he was fine. Mary looked at Blank's broken body, guessing he'd never get up. K agreed. Blank had reached his limit. This was the end. K left no unfinished problems. If Blank survived, he would only repeat his atrocities. Yet even in that miserable state, Blank weakly laughed, coughing up his color. He admitted his rushed power wasn't enough to defeat K, a shame. He wondered what might have happened if he'd obtained just a little more of K's color. Even after losing, he hadn't given up. To obtain that color, he was willing to do anything. Suddenly, the entire facility began to shake violently. Explosions echoed everywhere. Blank revealed special explosives were planted throughout the complex. Their organization lost contact with HQ. Undercity's chaos grew too vast. The higher-ups decided to erase all remaining evidence. If everything was ending, Blank saw no reason not to try one last thing. Before anyone reacted, the floor collapsed. K and Mary plunged into a massive abyss of black ink. K was shocked. An ocean of black ink? How? The ground, waste from extraction chambers, accumulated here for years. But a more urgent problem, Mary was in danger. As K feared, her body was already sinking. Colorless people were most vulnerable to black ink. Every second worsened the situation. K moved immediately, needing to absorb all surrounding ink. The problem, its sheer volume. Absorbing it all at once would take too long. Mary might be dead before he finished. He had to reach her directly. Fear crept in. What if he was too late? He knew the fate of those in black ink. They couldn't be saved. He questioned why he'd obtained this color. Wasn't this power for protecting his life's light? If he abandoned that light now, what were his struggles for? A voice asked if he'd accept this ending. The answer was clear. No, once was enough. He wouldn't lose someone important again. He refused to give up. K rushed, grabbing Mary's hand, immediately absorbing the black ink covering her. Deep down, he begged her to hold on. Mary had promised to see him become a colorist, believing everyone had their own light and color. Including herself, she just hadn't realized it. Kay never forgot those words, always reminded of Lumel's teachings. The world was full of discrimination and suffering. But on his journey, Kay met countless people who brightened lives with their own colors and light. Mary helped him realize something he never had before. Alone, he would have learned none of it, remaining buried in emptiness forever. He'd never known warmth or happiness. Now he understood. Lumil showed him the path, but Mary was his reason to keep going. She gave him a reason to smile. She had asterisk to wake up. They had a promise. The black ink slowly disappeared, but when Kay checked her, his heart stopped. Mary wasn't breathing. He couldn't understand. He'd absorbed all the ink. Then a soft light shone from Mary. Kay had seen that light before. Was this her hidden potential always within her? If that light could return, hope remained. Kay tightened his grip on her hand. He felt he just needed to do what he always did to save her. Suddenly, Mary's warm light spread through his body. The feeling was profoundly different, unlike his usual absorption. The light felt familiar, gentle, warm, comforting. Then Kay finally understood. This was Mary's hidden happiness. The warmth she carried was Mary's true light. Uniquely hers, it felt incredibly warm, bright, and full of life. Kay absorbed the light, guiding it back into Mary's body. Moments later, Mary trembled, then jolted awake, coughing violently, gasping for air. Mary looked utterly confused. She remembered sinking into the black ink sea, certain she shouldn't have survived. How was she still alive? Before an answer, something else caught her eye. Mary stared at her hands, eyes widening. Her body was giving off color, no longer colorless. Panic took over. Kay quickly calmed her, assuring her everything was fine. Don't jump to conclusions. The priority was checking if her body felt strange or uncomfortable. He knew it was confusing, but they had no time to think. The entire place was collapsing. They had to get out immediately. Explosions above likely blocked routes, but Kay was sure another way to the surface existed. As they strategized escape, a familiar meow echoed from the distance. It was Nero. Moments later, another explosion shook the area. The ceiling collapsed again, scattering debris. Then a figure emerged through the dust. Nero stood there proudly. The cat led Gale and Ellie straight to them. Relief washed over both at the sight of Kay and Mary alive. The situation remained critical, but they were found in time. Even better, neither seemed seriously injured. Exhausted from a nightmare, they could still move. For now, all had made it out alive. Kay couldn't even recall when his memories first began. His mind was shrouded in thick fog, everything distant and blurry. The line between himself and the world barely registered. Kay drifted with the current, no clear destination. Sometimes, when the fog cleared, he'd wake up in an unfamiliar place. Strangely, this was never a problem. Wherever his wandering led, one presence always stayed by his side: Nero. When Kay had nothing, Nero was his sole companion. Then in his dark world, a luminous figure appeared, filling everything with light. He introduced himself as Lumil. The moment Kay saw him, he instantly understood. Lumil was the beautiful light he'd unknowingly sought. That presence left an indelible mark on his heart. Unfortunately, their time together was brief. After parting from Lumil, Kay wandered unfamiliar places, chasing the beautiful light burned into his memory. Like a moth to flame, he wondered if he'd ever stand before that light again. Eventually, at the gloomy bottom of the Undercity, Kay met Mary. Mary was confused. Kay never spoke. She thought he might be mute or deaf. Kids like him weren't unusual there. It was raining that day. Mary warned Kay, avoid the rainwater. Old ceiling pipes were leaking, mixing with dangerous ink residue. How did Kay even get in here? Mary also spotted Nero nearby, carrying a creature. She figured it was fine, given Nero's small size. Mary led Kay to a hidden spot, but the guards found them anyway. They were furious Mary had left her designated area without permission. One threatened to beat her again, reminding her of her place. Their attention shifted to K.A. Stranger. He was immediately marked as a new experiment subject. Conveniently, they needed more test material. Roughly, Kay and Mary were dragged back to Blank. Blank looked irritated. His valuable samples were wandering freely. To him, supervision was completely falling apart. Guards rushed to apologize. Blank smiled faintly at Mary. He admitted gladness at seeing her again, but deemed her too stubborn, never knowing when to quit. Even valuable samples like them tested his patience. Blank warned continued resistance would only bring suffering. He couldn't understand their persistent attempts to escape. Kay finally understood the truth about that place. On the surface, the building looked like an ordinary orphanage, but it was a detention camp for kidnapped children. Many fake facilities exploited city poverty relief, hidden in the Undercity's darkness. Street kids were everywhere, forced into unpaid labor, a norm in the world below. But its true purpose wasn't just forced labor. It was for experiments. Security was extremely tight. The only exit was as a corpse. Mary refused to die there. Before Kay, she'd repeatedly tried escaping with others. Despite constant failures, Mary never gave up. Her unwavering determination became a beacon of hope, becoming the strongest support for all kids dreaming of the outside. Mary revealed that in 3 days, a patrol shift change would create a small security gap for their escape. She thanked Kay for his help. She promised they'd all escape together this time. Kay felt truly connected to Mary then. Mary shared the plan with the others, stressing secrecy. That night was their last in that horrible place. Mary dreamed of reaching Shining City, learning a craft, and opening her own workshop. In Shining City, even those without color could find work and eventually earn citizenship. They'd live near the city's outer wall. Mary said even that was far better than here. Mary asked what Kay would do once free. For the first time, Kay clearly answered, Colorist. He'd met a colorist once. Kay wanted to be like him ever since. It was Kay's first personal desire, but deep down he felt it was impossible. He'd long heard colorless people were weak and fragile. Every adult around him repeated the same thing. Kay felt he'd followed a beautiful light to this point. Now here he had no idea what to do or where to go. Other kids were excited about tomorrow's escape, but Kay couldn't understand their joy. He felt completely different. Mary just smiled. She said colorless people could awaken their true color later in life. Lumiel, the former Luminous, was once colorless, yet shone brighter than anyone. That's why Mary believed everyone holds their own light and color within. Kay is no exception. He doesn't lack it, he just hasn't realized it yet. Mary promised to help him gradually. To her, being a colorist sounds cool and Kay should pursue it. He's barely started. If he quits now, he'll surely regret it later. Even just trying is significant. Failure wasn't the end. Mary told him to pursue his true desires, be more confident. A gloomy face would only hide his motivation. Yet that hopeful night didn't bring the future they imagined. Brutal reality crushed everything instead. The children were easily caught, dragged to the extraction room. Their desperate struggles were futile against the horrifying fate awaiting them. A guard saw Mary resisting and slammed an iron pipe into her head to silence her. Weakened, blood streaming down her face, Mary's eyes locked on Kay, urging him to run. That's when Kay felt something boil within him. He finally recognized it, rage. Moments later, Kay was also struck. Meanwhile, some guards questioned why they were ordered to dispose of all the children. They weren't sure if this was permitted without Blank's approval. The guards, merely following orders, were indifferent. They grumbled about the lab's near exposure and their annoying job. Then Kay slowly rose. It was the moment his true nature surfaced. A massive disaster ensued, one Kay himself barely understood. When he finally came to, Mary and Nero were already by his side. Kay asked what happened, but Mary didn't know. She'd just woken up to everything already in ruins. Perhaps a huge explosion occurred. Of everyone present, only they seemed to have survived. Mary was sad, knowing those kids were good. But Kay saw people approaching. They had to move now. Staying meant getting caught again. Mary wiped her tears. The surface was their only option, survival here impossible. She made Kay promise, on the surface they'd live happily no matter what. Mary believed their lost children would have wanted this. As Mary and Kay climbed from the collapsed hole, Gale sighed deeply. Thanks to them, he'd seen Undercity's deepest part, a place he never imagined entering. Gale demanded an explanation for what was happening. Mary, previously colorless, now had vibrant color just like Kay. Gale felt nothing could shock him anymore. Ellie approached Mary, instantly realizing the girl had awakened, like Kay, with an incredibly deep hue. Such saturation was extremely rare, even among the three great families or nobles. Ellie declared the color genuinely beautiful. Kay knew this wasn't the time. Deep in Shadow's base, they didn't know when more enemies would attack. This place was too dangerous, they needed to leave. Gale was confused by Kay's change, his eyes different. Before they could ask, Mary stopped them, saying details could wait. Ellie agreed, adding there was no rush. All the annoying trash here was cleared. Mary looked surprised they'd taken down so many enemies alone. Gale scoffed. He admitted moving fast and burning through much color just to arrive. Kay and Mary should be grateful. The explosion blocked routes. Zed's members appeared non-stop, and their weapons were mere mass-produced droppers. Still, they couldn't drop their guard. Someone could be hiding, waiting to strike as they move. Mary followed close behind. A guard, faking unconsciousness, finally rose, barely containing his rage. He wouldn't let them just walk away after such a beating. Returning in this pathetic state, losing a hand or two would be light punishment. So he decided to drag one of them to hell with him. He lunged at Mary, full of killing intent. The group reacted instantly. Kay moved first. Ready to finish the guard, Kay was stopped. Mary threw a light punch. Strangely, the man flew, slamming into the wall. Even Mary was shocked. She just swung normally, but the power was far beyond anything she'd imagined. Before they could discuss it, heavy footsteps echoed from the corridor. Peacekeeping forces arrived, immediately ordering everyone to drop weapons and surrender. Moments later, they found only the reported pioneers. The peacekeepers looked genuinely relieved Kay and the others were safe. They even thanked the group for their help. Ellie casually replied they just did what was needed. A peacekeeper then explained they'd tried to chase them after hearing Kay. A's group went ahead. By their arrival, it was all over before they could even step in. Truly a pioneer's work. They did nothing, which felt a bit embarrassing. The peacekeeper added Zed's members likely wouldn't make moves for a while after this. Most members were captured. Peacekeepers would handle the rest. Mary felt they should head back to the surface immediately. She felt trapped underground for years. Still, she felt relief, knowing it ended well. Gale and Ellie's curiosity finally got the better of them. Ellie noticed Kay looked different earlier, asking if something happened. Kay looked at his hands, then covered his face. He seemed to realize his earlier demeanor made everyone uncomfortable. Calmly, Kay apologized for worrying them. He donned his cheerful mask again, claiming he was fine. Just old memories resurfacing, nothing serious, no need to worry. Gale saw this and stopped Ellie from pressing further. He figured it was Kay's past, something he wasn't ready to share. When Kay was ready, he'd speak. Ellie nodded slowly. For now, reaching the surface was paramount. Meanwhile, Blank clung to life. Wounded, he limped through the Undercity's dark corridors. He'd only survived by pure luck, his condition truly pathetic. Blank felt his end was genuinely near this time. One regret lingered, he hadn't seen Kay's true form completely. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from the dark corridor. Viper appeared, greeting Blank with a sharp stare. They'd made a deal, she thought. How was she supposed to understand this pathetic situation? Viper snuck into Undercity only for her business partner to vanish. Now found, he's a walking corpse just waiting to expire. Viper reminded him he still owed her something. So what's his move? Blank isn't fully dead, but this is genuinely troublesome. Honestly, Viper didn't want to use her poison on a human again. This time she had no choice. Her poison could be medicine depending on its use. Later, Viper returned. Her sister hugged her, complaining about being left alone. The girl insisted she'd come along next time. Viper reminded her she'd said she'd be fine alone. But how could Viper stay calm when something always happened the moment she let her guard down? The sword demon with them noticed Viper was taking longer. He asked if she got the item. Viper nodded casually. This was the thing she'd mentioned, a substance that attracts creatures mixed or something like that. More importantly, she brought back even more than planned, no sweat. Feeling she'd contributed a lot, Viper hoped her profit share would be bigger this time. Now. Preparations were finally complete. Time to start the plan. Viper leapt onto a giant creature covered in black ink. The sword demon climbed on too, asking if that substance would truly work on something so massive. These creatures were living disasters, usually moving only by the Black Witch's will. He joined this plan, keen on bringing down Shining City. But if it went berserk, attacking randomly, things could turn bad for them too. Viper didn't appreciate such doubt. To her, since the Black Witch went dormant, the power controlling these creatures had weakened. The mixed substance only amplified their natural instincts temporarily. Viper told the sword demon to see for himself. She poured liquid from a bottle directly onto the creature's nose. Instantly, the giant monster thrashed wildly, moving with brutal force exactly as Viper expected. These creatures would keep moving relentlessly. This time, their intent was to tear Shining City apart piece by piece. The Unser City entrance perimeter already swarmed with panicked crowds. Zed's crew had clearly caused massive trouble again. With peacekeepers directly intervening, things had gone too far. The peacekeeper who'd helped them earlier approached, offering formal thanks. The defeated pioneers were secured under tight guard. Kay and the others had no further worries. Suddenly, a relieved voice echoed from behind. Everything was resolved. Camellia had rushed here after the urgent report, only to find nothing left to worry about. His arrival immediately drew everyone's attention. Even nearby passers-by recognized him. Colorist Red walked straight to Kay, asking what he'd done this time. Little truly surprised him, but this situation exceeded all expectations. Red's gaze shifted to Mary. Kay's friend, right? Mary looked completely different from their last meeting. Even more surprising, she'd awakened right after Kay. Too many eyes were watching here. Better to talk back at headquarters. They returned to the Dawn Pioneer Core base. Camellia looked thrilled Red had once again brought in someone extraordinary. A new awakened emerged, right on Kay's heels. According to Red, the Lumial Awakena phenomenon was already the city's hottest topic. Every color emerging from a colorless person signifies immense power enough to etch their name in history. Mary was no different. She was the talented engineer who created Kay's ink drain. Camellia stared at Mary, eyes sparkling. Her color was so vivid, so beautiful. Camellia was eager to recruit Mary into the Dawn Pioneering Corps. She immediately offered incentives, hoping Mary wasn't already considering another corps. Everyone would want an awakened like her now. But Camellia was confident the Dawn Corps could treat her far better. Kay just smiled faintly, watching Mary. Without hesitation, Mary accepted. She wanted to join the Dawn Corps and achieve something significant there. Camellia was overjoyed by the confident answer. She wanted to prepare the contract for Mary to sign immediately. But before anything was finalized, another colorist walked in. He'd been listening and disagreed with Mary joining so easily. He believed everyone needed a test to become a corps member. Camellia looked annoyed by his stubbornness. Mary is asterisk awakened, isn't she? What if another corps snatched her due to their delay? But the man ignored Camelia's protest. He looked at Mary, asking if she was ready. Since Mary chose her dropper, he'd explain the test rules. It's simple. Mary just needs to defeat a test golem the corps prepared. The golem's strength represents the minimum standard for official membership. If one can't handle that, they shouldn't dream of the Black Land. The man admitted this sudden test was unusual. Mary had no prior appointment. Still, its results would ensure her acceptance by the members. He knew Mary, an engineer, wasn't accustomed to direct combat, but if her color was truly real, this test should be easy to clear. She needed to proudly prove her worth here. The test began. The moment it activated, the golem charged, throwing massive punches at Mary. Camellia panicked, wondering what that man was thinking. Mary wasn't used to a weapon, yet he'd thrown her into this test. She needed gradual training. What if Mary got scared and joined another corps? Under pressure, Mary began to doubt. Could she win against a monster like this? But she realized self-doubt wouldn't solve anything. With color now, retreat was no longer an option. Mary channeled all her color into the dropper, pushing its output to the absolute limit, aiming to fell the golem in one strike. She succeeded. A massive power explosion tore through the ceiling, shaking the room. Even the yellow-haired colorist looked stunned. For a moment, Mary's emission nearly matched his. This was her first direct dropper use. Mary's potential was truly incredible, but she still hadn't learned to control her power properly. Her colors exploded everywhere, completely out of control. Panicking, she called for help, growing more terrified of her own strength. She ended up destroying even more of the ceiling. Everyone scrambled to clean up while Mary apologized non-stop. Camellia just chuckled, telling her not to worry. She was genuinely curious where they'd found a gem like Mary. The girl's display was truly extraordinary. Even under a sudden, nervous test, Mary's power far exceeded the minimum standard. Camellia officially welcomed Mary into the Dawn Pioneer Corps. Such talent gathered felt incredibly promising to Camellia. She genuinely couldn't wait to see their accomplishments, starting today. Camellia immediately called Colorist Yellow her uncle. So no more objections to accepting Mary now, right? He replied he never opposed it. He just needed a strong reason for everyone to accept her recruitment, especially as an awakened. Skipping procedure would cause a major uproar. Still, he admitted, Mary's power was genuinely extraordinary. Her total color output might be among the best of her generation. He reminded Camellia not to call him uncle publicly. It hurt his image. Camellia told him to relax. It wasn't an official setting, and his stiffness would make him seem cold. Then Camellia led Mary away. There was much to prepare for the Dawn Pioneer Corps' newest member. Her paperwork wasn't even done. Kay was a bit worried about the sudden test. He felt relieved things went smoothly. Soon Red approached, asking if the welcome celebration was over. Not busy today, right? Everyone shook their heads. Red said the timing couldn't be better. He'd been too caught up in work to give them proper attention. This moment felt ideal. Red wanted to teach them something important. They headed to an empty training area, perfect for practice without worrying about observers. Training dummies remained, designed like hard-shelled enemies, tough enough that ordinary attacks wouldn't scratch them. Red urged them to pay close attention for survival in the Black Land. This technique was crucial, a must-master. He swung his sword at a dummy. A loud clash echoed instantly. Red then explained that even the best ink drains or droppers had limits. Sooner or later, they'd face enemies impervious to ordinary attacks. Some foes regenerated repeatedly, even after being cut to pieces. That's why in such cases, chroma manifestation was essential. Color enveloped Red's sword. Ellie and Gale recognized it. the same technique Red used against the sword demon in the Black Land. It was called chroma. One extracts their latent color, coding body and weapon to manifest in various forms. With personal color layered, the power would far exceed ordinary ability. Previously uncuttable things would slice cleanly. As pioneers, this ability would become a core essential skill. A trump card was essential. No one knew what awaited them in the Black Land. Others stared in awe at the dummy's clean slice. Kay asked if every colorist must freely use this ability. Red explained this was merely the minimum standard for a colorist, a basic stage. At high-level rank A, many would use similar techniques. To be recognized as a true colorist, they'd need to become rank S pioneers and pass a special exam. Next, Red told them to ready weapons, get into position, and begin training chroma. He added the technique, though impressive, was merely an extension of themselves. They knew the sensation before activating their power as their color began releasing. Normally, they'd let it flow freely. This time was different. They needed to imagine that color absorbing back into their body and weapon, not spilling outward. The training proved far harder than expected. They followed Red's instructions, but their color drained fast instead. If this continued, they could become colorless. Red expected it wouldn't be easy. Still, for beginners, their progress was impressive. Some take years just to grasp chroma's basic sensation. Red reminded them not to get cocky. Talent is just the start. To truly make it their own, real effort was needed. Mid-training, Kay pulled it off with ease. He admitted he'd been using that ability for some time. So this was what they called chroma. Ellie finally realized that Kay's ability at the ruins was chroma all along. Red seemed even more eager to teach him now. In hindsight, this outcome was always obvious. Currently, Kay was just pouring immense power into his attacks. His method was crude, relying purely on brute force, but Red didn't see that as a major problem yet. Explaining the next stage would only confuse Kay. Kay's color usage was still far too wasteful. At this rate, he'd turn colorless after just a few attacks. Kay admitted he knew, but still couldn't control his output properly and was working to fix it. Hearing this, Red finally understood. Kay had been surviving terrifying color consumption by simply absorbing even more. Red then told Gale and Ellie to train until their chroma manifested. To keep up with Kay, they needed to work harder starting now. For Kay, Red stressed something more urgent than chroma. Kay's current state was worse than Gale's or Ellie's. Red immediately forbade ink drain use. They needed to return to. Kay needs to master the basics and train his color efficiency. He's been using 100 units of power for tasks that only needed 10. While such strength seems impressive, continued misuse will turn this ability into a double-edged sword, destroying him from within. Red knew Kay tried to control it, but he's still just blindly dumping color, lacking true command. Most of his power was wasted. Kay's absorption-heavy fighting style was genuinely dangerous. If he faced a slightly stronger opponent, or one who could resist that ability, Kay would immediately be in serious trouble. Red told him to imagine turning colorless in a dark, monster-infested place. Kay had survived, but was that truly enough to guarantee his safety? Kay finally understood Red. He'd been in far more danger than he realized. He released his ink drain, asking what to do. Red told him to unleash all his power first. This was their training's starting point. Kay obeyed. Black energy surged out intensely. Even Red found it hard to believe. Power was incredible when they met, but its growth since then was almost ridiculous. Without ink drain's help, Kay quickly grew exhausted. Maintaining such a color flow felt brutally heavy. Red ordered him to hold that condition no matter what. He even threatened Kay with death if his output dropped slightly. Kay immediately protested, calling the threat excessive, but Red insisted he was dead serious. Red claimed it would be disappointing if a colorist-to-be couldn't handle basic training. Red challenged Kay's earlier resolve. Kay's emotions flared instantly. He vowed to hold that condition to the very end. The training became brutal. By its end, all three were utterly exhausted, having burned through almost all their personal ink. Kay wondered if this would be a daily routine now. He never expected such difficulty. He'd lost count of the ink bottles consumed. Red thought their first day's results were solid, clearly showing their hard work, so he announced training would wrap up. Kay, Gale, and Ellie immediately turned to leave, assuming it was over, but Red stopped them. He'd never said they could go home, nor that training was done. In fact, the real part was just beginning. As a closer, they'd now face actual combat training. Red commanded the three to attack him with full intent, as if their lives truly depended on it. Such a scenario would genuinely unfold in the Black Land. Moments later, Red's sudden announcement stunned them. He declared himself their sparring opponent. Just learning chroma wasn't enough, he clarified. Despite their talent, field experience was minimal. This training aimed to bridge that gap even slightly to boost survival odds. Red was clearly fired up. He vowed no mercy, forcing an all-out fight. Gale Ellie broke into a cold sweat, weapons raised. Red, get ready, he stepped forward. Imagine the worst, black land enemies, no mercy there. Fight without holding back, strike with everything. A second later, Red shot forward at incredible speed. Mid-move, he challenged, land one effective hit. In an instant, he appeared behind Ellie. The sword swung without hesitation. Ellie, startled, couldn't track the movement, but her body reacted first. Ice burst from her hand, a solid barrier blocking the blade. A loud clash echoed through the training area. Pushed back, Ellie still held the sword off. Red watched, a faint smile on his face, exactly as he expected. Her reflexes were clearly faster than the others, and she froze such dense ice in a split second. Her color control was genuinely impressive. Ellie swiftly launched a follow-up. Jagged ice assailed Red from multiple directions. Red seemed impressed by her attack-defense combo. He noted her style was excellent for a beginner. Dodging with ease, Red reminded her, every ability has a weakness. His sword glowed, radiating a far denser color. Red explained, when two color elements clash, the weaker is destroyed. His sword swung. One clean slash split all Ellie's ice. It shattered before her eyes, stunning Ellie at Red's easy breach of her defense. Red advised her not to be satisfied just because her ice was dense. That defense, he said, could still be broken any time. Ellie needed a backup plan. Or train her chroma to harden the ice. Meanwhile, Gale moved, his sword swinging with smooth, precise motion, leaving faint trails. He instantly charged from the left, slashing at Red. Kay shot in from the opposite side, his black attack sweeping from the right with dangerous force. The two kept up a relentless barrage, giving Red no room to breathe. Attacks rained from two directions, a blur of blades and clashing colors. Yet Red remained calm under the pressure. With simple, efficient movements, he effortlessly blocked every attack. Kay and Gale looked shocked, their attacks easily broken. Even more shocking, Red used no color. The next second, Kay, Ellie, and Gale shot forward together. Three-way attack almost simultaneous. Red handled it effortlessly. Swords clashed, high-speed sparks flying. Wave after wave of attacks, yet no breakthrough. Cold sweat dripped down Gale's face. He couldn't believe all three combined still hadn't touched Red. Their effort, Gale knew, was not enough. His past weakness and his protector's sacrifice replayed endlessly. That was why Gale swore tragedy would never repeat. A surge of green, sword-shaped energy formed around him. Gale shot skyward, ready to unleash a full-powered strike on Red. His resolve was simple, get stronger fast. From above, Gale rained down sharp, blade-like thrusts onto Red. For the first time, Red channeled ink drain into his sword. A faint glow enveloped the blade as he prepared for Gale's attack. The next second, Red calmly swung his sword. Gale's attack was easily deflected. Every sharp blade aimed at him shattered instantly on impact. Without leaving an opening, Red suddenly vanished. In an instant, he reappeared before Ellie, landing a light slash that instantly shattered her ice wall, before Ellie could react. Red spun, slamming his sword hilt into Gale's stomach. Gale coughed, flying backward. Red then swung at Kay, shattering his weapon with a swift slash. This assault left Kay, Ellie, and Gale drained, frozen before Red. Their heavy breathing and aching bodies revealed an impossibly wide power gap. Red, seeing their state, knew the sparring had served its purpose. His gaze shifted to Gale. Red called him out for rushing attacks, making every move predictable. He argued that burning all his color to become colorless was a poor strategy. Red didn't know Gale's restlessness, but emotions couldn't cloud his judgment or fighting style. Red said little to KK, was already using color without a dropper. He should feel the difference. Red then brought up the Undercity incident. It ended well, but only because Kay went berserk without control. Without Mary's dropper, Kay's situation would have been far worse. He warned Kay to manage his power more carefully. Compared to Ellie and Gale, Kay's weakness was far more dangerous. Kay remained silent, listening. As he expected, Red was incredibly strong. A colorist like him clearly stood on a completely different level. Slowly. Kay wondered if he could ever reach such strength. Despite his heavy body, Kay slowly rose. He refused to let it end here. A strong desire grew to be recognized by the top colorist. Kay slowly rose, recalling Red's words about attacking with everything. He'd recently gained a new ability, but he hesitated to use it, not fully understanding it. Kay smiled faintly. Ending things here felt like a waste. Dense black energy gathered in his hand, wild yellow lightning sparking as he activated the power. The energy around Kay instantly turned unstable, filling the training area with massive pressure. Kay admitted he still couldn't fully control that power. Ellie and Gale stared in disbelief at Kay's change, his aura far more terrifying. Meanwhile, Red's expression shifted for the first time. His eyes showed genuine shock at the immense power before him. Kay's fist shot toward Red with overwhelming force. The collision triggered a massive explosion, destroying the arena ceiling. As the dust settled, Kay stood swaying, gasping for breath. His body's color slowly faded, turning colorless. Kay was completely drained by one attack with his new power. Red stood firm, yet cold sweat ran down his face. His gaze fell to his snapped sword. Red's surprise and amazement at Kay's strength were evident. A massive crater carved by that punch stretched out. Even Red couldn't imagine Kay's potential growth. Gale and Ellie stood in shock, witnessing Kay's impossible new power. Red hadn't expected Kay to wield black with another color simultaneously. Seeing this, Red realized Kay might someday wield multiple colors like a luminous. Recognizing this potential, Red smiled faintly, admitting he'd need to get serious or lose face as a teacher. Soon after, Red ended the training for the day. Red supported Kay's exhausted body, telling Gale and Ellie to regroup later. He then carried Kay from the arena. Red advised Ellie and Gale not to dwell on today. Though discouraged by Kay's ability, their strength already surpassed other beginner pioneers. They just needed to train harder. Meanwhile, the training arena was in chaos. Cracks covered the floor, debris scattered from the impact. The scene shifted to the Dawn Pioneer Corps headquarters. Inside, Camellia felt a strong tremor from outside. She barely noticed, continuing her usual activities. Mary saw Camellia had gone quiet and called out. Snapping back, Camellia quickly apologized, then asked Mary's opinion on the cakes. Mary nodded gently, admitting they looked delicious, but something else weighed on her mind. She wondered if she truly deserved such expensive gear. By then, Mary was already wearing her new brown-toned outfit, much neater and more elegant. Camellia just smiled, relaxed, saying it wasn't a big deal. She explained the gear was made from high-quality, extremely durable material which would greatly help her in battle. Mary was now officially part of the Dawn Pioneer Corps. Camellia told her to think of all the equipment as a welcome gift. Mary finally smiled, relieved by the explanation, adding she looked forward to working together. Suddenly, the door slammed open. A panicked subordinate rushed in, reporting an emergency. Camellia demanded an explanation. He urged them to look outside. Mary and Camellia rushed out. Stepping outside, both froze. Thick black smoke billowed from the black land, spreading across Shining City's sky. Camellia reached out as black ash drifted. Her expression turned serious, recognizing the sign. The mark of a black wave. In the black land, giant creatures surfaced. The Sword Demon and Twin Viper stood atop one, poised to destroy Shining City. Monsters rampaged, tearing through settlements. Residents screamed in panic, urging escape. Amidst the chaos, one man refused to abandon his ink containers and chromatic ore. His friend urged him to run, to escape certain death. Panic spread faster once word got out about the wave. No one expected this phenomenon again, especially the fourth black wave, which gave no warning. Their sheer size was unreasonable, more a walking disaster than a monster. Ancient civilizations, even at their peak, had vanished because of them. Rumors claimed a single creature could level a major city. Panic spread rapidly as they rampaged relentlessly. Their brutal attacks tore through buildings, sending human bodies flying. At the last line of defense, soldiers immediately fired artillery to slow the monsters. The atmosphere was chaotic and tense. A soldier yelled at comrades to move the shell artillery faster before the defense line was breached. Captain's order, clear target, fire without hesitation. Scene shifted. Gale snapped at Kay and Ellie, still gazing out. Get ready now. He stressed Red would arrive soon. They needed to move. Soon, Red arrived, ordering everyone to grab weapons and prepare. Seeing the chaos, he declared, "No time to relax," then immediately led the team forward. Meanwhile, Kay. Watching through the window, he felt uneasy. The blaring warning siren reminded him of when those creatures first gathered near the city. Ellie agreed, but noted this time felt far more tense. She looked up at the black ash falling, which brought back memories of a similar past event. Suddenly, an emergency speaker blared, ordering every pioneer to return to their corps. The announcement repeated, its tone growing more urgent. Residents froze in shock, bewildered, questioning what was actually going on. The streets quickly descended into chaos. Some yelled to clear the road, others panicked at the black ash falling. Slowly, the horrifying truth dawned. A monster wave had arrived. Amidst the panic, a child clung to his mother, trembling. His mother tried to calm him, assuring the pioneers would handle it. The crowd ran in a frenzy, pushing each other faster. Shouts filled the streets, people asking where the monsters spawned. Amid the chaos, a cry went up. Monsters were gathering on the eastern outskirts. But before clarity, a massive explosion suddenly rocked the area behind them. A green-haired man screamed in panic, ordering everyone to fall back, warning a far bigger threat approached. Once the dust settled, the Black Hand creatures finally appeared. Their size dwarfed ordinary monsters. Even more terrifying, some wielded massive swords and axes ready to crush all in their path. The warning speaker blared relentlessly. Elsewhere, Kay and Gale looked irritated as the situation unfolded. Gale cursed, wondering what those arrogant people were doing. Kay explained, they were Blaze and Nickel. From the Radiance Pioneer Corps, a group renowned even before their pioneer days. They were the Dawn Pioneer Corps' eastern rivals, and now, amidst this emergency, they'd crossed paths. At the evacuation line, a tense army captain led his troops. He warned that if this continued, civilians would become casualties before evacuation was complete. They held the line until all residents were secured. Kay and her team finally arrived, immediately tearing through the creatures with brutal force. The watching soldiers felt relief, seeing a real chance to survive. One soldier breathed a grateful sigh, another urged faster evacuation. From then on, the pioneers became the front line, clearing the path for civilians. An orange-haired pioneer confidently declared no monster had breached their defenses since the Radiant Corps arrived. That claim shattered instantly. A creature lunged, attacking troops, catching all off guard. In a flash, Kay swiftly sliced the monster in half. Others joined, clearing the rest. At the evacuation zone, residents screamed in panic. Artillery fired non-stop, holding back the monster wave closing in. Chaos worsened as people pushed for safety. Soldiers calmed crowds, kept evacuation moving, warning panic would worsen things. Elsewhere, creatures moved fast toward the defense line. Soldiers grew frustrated. Fast monsters were always the hardest. The captain immediately ordered the unit to open fire before they got too close. Color attacks rained down on the creatures. The captain ordered blue attacks to slow the monsters, buying crucial time for frontline troops to retreat. The creature wave thinned, but the battle was far from over. Then, giant monsters appeared, charging the last fortress, threatening its collapse. At that critical moment, Rank S Colorists finally arrived, with a sharp smirk. Camellia, situation critical, I'll be brief. As Dawn Pioneer Corps commander, she's taking temporary command of all regional Pioneer Corps. A massive Black Hand force detected, heading straight for the front base. Kay and the others froze in shock, his mind flashing to that terrifying figure, the Sword Demon. Moments later, the red-haired man sighed, saying they nearly arrived too late, risking disaster. He apologized for the delay, especially to the younger ones. Kay and the others remained silent. The red-eyed man then praised Kay's team for holding the line. Camellia added Vanguard members also fought hard against the assault. Meanwhile, at the front, troops were overwhelmed by creature pressure. The captain shouted orders to fall back. Suddenly, a sword strike ripped through the battlefield. The red-haired colorist's brutal attack instantly destroyed a massive creature, making it shriek. Kay and Gale froze, stunned by such power, but the fight wasn't over. They flinched as a giant creature rose, its terrifying presence blotting out the sky. The monster swung a massive tentacle, sweeping across buildings and nearby troops. A sharp warning blared. A giant creature attacked. Everyone braced, but Kay's team held their ground. Instead, they charged, vowing to be the defense line's shield. Before them, the giant creature loomed, poised to strike. Kay and the others pushed forward, slashing down every monster. From above the battlefield, the Sword Demon observed the entire fight. He recognized Kay, seeing him as the key to unveiling the Black Witch. He vowed not to let Kay escape again. Meanwhile, Camellia gave control to Red, who calmly stated he'd manage the situation. Camellia sensed someone was targeting Kay, so she asked Red to keep watch. Simultaneously, high above, the Twin Viper and the Sword Demon watched the chaos with calm interest. Viper looked satisfied, her plan exceeding expectations. She hadn't imagined controlling so many creatures with Blank's few vials. She laughed like the Black Witch herself, declaring her next plan far more interesting. Amidst the battle, Camelia's voice rose again, handing the city's defense fully to the pioneers. She ordered them to spread out, encircle the enemy, sweep through all creatures, then regroup with defense forces to focus on the giant. Kay and others affirmed, ready. Pioneers moved swiftly, scattering as chaos escalated. Camellia urged everyone to hold ground, stay patient, repel the Black Hand's assault, then execute a coordinated retreat. Elsewhere, the red-eyed man calmly stated he and the Dawn commander would advance to hold the front line against the enemy. Camellia briefly replied she'd follow. Meanwhile, Kay felt a small relief, not because the situation was safer, but because Mary wasn't on the battlefield. To him, this dangerous situation was too risky for a beginner in close combat. Elsewhere, Mary was busy supporting troops with her mechanical skills. Operating from behind the front line, she was safer, avoiding direct confrontation with the Black Hand. Orders echoed non-stop across the battlefield. Every colorist mobilized to stop the Black Hand before the situation spiraled out of control. Soldiers fired artillery non-stop, trying to slow the monster's advance. The captain ordered continuous firing. Monsters were closing in. As pressure mounted, a soldier called for supplies. Ammo was running low. Mary swiftly delivered 3 crates of bullets to the soldiers. They were amazed by her speed. One admitted moving the supplies alone would take much longer. After thanking Mary, they returned to duties. Mary rushed off to help elsewhere. As she ran, Mary couldn't believe the monster attack's scale. She'd never witnessed anything like this. Looking aside, she saw pioneers desperately battling a growing monster horde. A pioneer yelled, "Hold your ground. If we fall, unevacuated civilians are doomed." Then Kay and Ellie suddenly charged. Onlookers warned, pushing deeper is too dangerous. But their worries quickly faded. Kay, Ellie, and Gale moved as one, cutting down monsters and forcing their retreat. Their performance even caught the attention of other pioneers. One couldn't believe his eyes. Another commented that rookie pioneers these days operated on a completely different level. Meanwhile, a brown-haired pioneer felt frustrated. Watching newcomers outperform experienced fighters humiliated him. The battle continued as frontline pioneers worked together to stop as many monsters as possible. While observing the battlefield, Kay noticed the situation was more stable than he'd expected. Radiant's core pioneers were making major contributions on the front line. Other pioneers supported them, leaving no openings. Kay believed they could hold the monster assault if things continued this way, but looking up, he noticed a much bigger problem. A giant monster was still moving toward Shining City. Though slow, it never stopped advancing. Kay doubted their current forces could stop it. He hoped SS-rank Colorist would return soon after Black Hand was dealt with. Suddenly, something rushed toward him. Kay immediately sensed its presence. A powerful impact shook the area as a figure crashed, sending dust and debris flying. When the dust settled, Kay froze. Standing before him was Sword Demon, a Black Hand member. Sword Demon stared at Kay, revealing he'd finally found the key. Kay was stunned. Gale immediately ordered a retreat to reorganize their formation. Ellie was equally shocked. She couldn't understand why Sword Demon, usually on the front line, was here. Kay quickly prepared himself, but the others insisted he retreat. They knew they stood no chance against Sword Demon. Without a rank S colorist, fighting him was suicide. With everyone focused on the front line, Sword Demon saw an opportunity. He drew his sword, charging Kay, determined to capture him. Moments later, Sword Demon stood before him, about to strike. But at the last second, Red appeared, blocking the attack. Sword Demon was surprised. He hadn't expected Red. Red simply laughed, revealing he'd anticipated this. Meanwhile, Kay stared in shock as his teacher suddenly appeared, saving him, while blocking Sword Demon's sword. Red expected Sword Demon to target Kay, but was surprised by his blatant killing intent. Red immediately ordered his students to leave, promising a quick end to the battle. Kay's group retreated, urging him to be careful. Back on the battlefield, Sword Demon looked annoyed that Red was interfering again. Red remained calm. Filled with anger, Sword Demon pointed his sword at Red, declaring he would end everything right there. The moment Red saw the silver sword, he realized it was an ancient relic. Red didn't know where Sword Demon got such a valuable, troublesome weapon, yet instead of backing down, Red tightened his grip. He remarked it was only fitting for Sword Demon to wield such a challenging blade, or the fight would be boring. As both sides prepared, their auras surged. Kay, Gale, and Ellie retreated. Behind them, Red and Sword Demon's energy clash created shockwaves, sending dust and debris flying. Even retreating, Kay worried about Red. Gale wondered who Kay truly was for Red to be so concerned. Ellie quickly pointed out helping Red would only worsen things. Interfering would simply make them a burden. Then their movement suddenly stopped. A strange song echoed in their heads. Confused, Kay and the others looked around, searching for the song's source. Then a mysterious figure spoke. Curious, the figure wondered why Sword Demon had abandoned everything to rush to Kay. They also questioned the secret behind Black Witch's barrier, given Sword Demon's determination to hide it. Moments later, Twin Viper revealed herself. Holding her younger sister, she couldn't grasp why Sword Demon went to such lengths to hide it. To her, he was just a foolish sword fanatic. Viper's gaze shifted to Kay. Was he the key the Sword Demon sought? Red's desperate protection only confirmed her suspicion. Kay recognized her instantly, Black Hand. Fear gripped him. Gale and Ellie drew their weapons. The gravity of the situation was clear. Escape was no longer an option. They had to stand their ground against Viper. The three quickly took battle positions. Ellie reminded them their goal was to survive until Red defeated Sword Demon. Viper laughed, mocking the idea Red could protect them forever. Then she moved. Before anyone could react, Viper rushed straight at Kay. Kay froze in surprise. A moment later, Viper's fist crashed toward him. Fortunately, Kay blocked the attack but struggled to withstand the impact. The collision cracked the ground, sending shockwaves. Kay struggled, sweat pouring against Viper's overwhelming strength. Viper, meanwhile, relished it. Seeing an opening, Ellie rushed in from the right, warning Viper away from Kay. Gale attacked from the left. Their blades struck Viper. Green liquid sprayed with each cut, but something felt immediately strange. Gale and Ellie realized Viper made no attempt to dodge. She simply smiled, accepting every blow. Kay didn't stop. He immediately punched Viper, ordering Gale and Ellie to continue their assault. Kay knew if they stopped pressure, Viper's wounds would recover. The trio continued their relentless assault. Viper remained still, accepting every strike. The longer this went on, the more uneasy Kay became. He couldn't grasp why Viper refused to retaliate. He also eyed Viper's sister, who hadn't joined the fight. Her mere presence was unsettling. As attacks persisted, Viper sighed in disappointment, mocking their strength and calling the fight boring. "Playtime's over," she declared, finally getting serious. Unbeknownst to them, Viper's green substance had already latched onto Gale and Ellie. Initially harmless, everything changed a moment later. A tremendous pressure suddenly erupted from the green substance. It began forcing its way out. Gale and Ellie coughed, staggered. Green fluid poured from their mouths, bodies trembling uncontrollably. Neither understood what poisoned them. Seeing their reactions, Viper laughed arrogantly. She mocked their belief that reckless attacks could defeat her. But to Viper, the outcome was already decided. Kay, Gale, and Ellie were contaminated by her power. In Viper's eyes, that was a death sentence. Viper explained the substance in her body was both poison and medicine. Laughing, she asked Gale how it felt to be her victim, her poison a blessing and a deadly terror. Seeing Gale and Ellie near death, Viper smugly declared, "Lunchtime has arrived." But then Kay appeared. Seeing Gale and Ellie's state, he rushed without hesitation, absorbing the poison covering their bodies. Slowly, the dark green substance seeped from their pores and evaporated. Ellie could hardly believe her eyes as the poison vanished. Even Viper was visibly shocked. Moments later, Gale and Ellie had recovered so completely, even they found it hard to believe. Demanding an explanation, Viper stared at Kay. Kay calmly explained her poison was just another color. He didn't know its true power, but it had no effect on him. Those words instantly reminded Viper of the Black Witch. Kay's color absorption ability was strikingly similar to a power she'd seen. She also recalled a demon in the city with a nearly identical ability. This led to a conclusion. Kay wasn't erasing the Black Witch's influence. He'd modified it into a new power. Another possibility crossed her mind. Kay might have been using pure black power all along. Even the Viper race didn't possess black power that dense. Viper ignored the swirling questions in her mind. The power she sought stood before her. She would claim it. Dark green energy erupted from Viper, a terrifying aura engulfing the area. Kay, Gale, and Ellie prepared for battle. Gale trembled, knowing Viper could defeat him instantly. Ellie thanked Kay for saving her despite their now even more perilous situation. Kay snapped, "Stop acting helpless. As long as I absorb the poison, you won't die. Viper's venom can still be neutralized. We still have a fighting chance." Viper chuckled softly. "Can't you see the massive power gap? You picked the wrong fight. The real monster is right here." Moments later, Viper charged. Instantly, she appeared before Kay, unleashing a claw strike that sent him flying across the battlefield. Before he could recover, she launched a relentless barrage of brutal attacks. Kay could only defend, blocking the relentless assaults. As the fight raged, he realized Viper was now far stronger and faster. Even with Chroma manifestation activated, he struggled to keep pace. Viper relentlessly pushed him back. Surviving her attacks was hard. Finding an opening to counterattack seemed impossible. Seeing his struggle, Viper mocked him. She claimed even if Kay absorbed her poison, she could still crush him with physical strength alone. She criticized his troublesome ability, saying he underutilized it. But then everything changed. A sudden slash struck Viper, green blood spraying from the wound. Surprised, she turned. The attacker was Gale. Furious, Gale yelled at Viper for ignoring him and Ellie. Ellie, meanwhile, gathered ice energy. She warned Kay, then cast Frost Wall. Ice rapidly formed around Viper, expanding into a massive barrier as triple layer activated. Using that brief moment, Ellie pulled Kay away, urging him to retreat while they still could. Kay nodded. He watched, having narrowly avoided Ellie's own attack. Staring at Viper's ice prison, Ellie warned the barrier wouldn't hold long against such power. She was right. Cracks soon spread across the surface. Ellie stated Viper's strength defied common sense. A direct hit would instantly destroy their bodies. If the battle continued, they'd be poisoned again. Without Kay's earlier poison neutralization, Gale and Ellie likely couldn't have continued fighting. Hearing this, Gale muttered a curse, then asked Kay if he could still use that special power that had shocked Red. Kay initially looked confused, but understanding Gale's meaning, he nodded, confirming he could. However, Kay admitted he wasn't used to the power, needing time to focus. With no option, Gale told him to prepare immediately. He and Ellie would hold Viper back for Kay to concentrate. Kay quickly sat, focusing all his strength. Gale and Ellie stepped forward, urging him to hurry before they died. Soon, a massive explosion shattered Ellie's ice wall. Fragments scattered, signaling Viper's breakout. Without wasting a second, Viper charged, mocking their delay. Gale and Ellie moved to stop her. Viper declared she didn't care for either, but if they kept obstructing, they'd die. Her claws struck both Gale and Ellie directly, yet Viper was surprised they still stood. Breathing heavily, Gale warned her not to come closer. He was near collapse, and Ellie was in no better state. Not to be outdone by Kay, both activated Chroma manifestation. Chroma energy surged through their bodies and weapons, dramatically boosting their strength. Viper laughed. She found it impressive that low-ranked kids could use Chroma manifestation with such determination. But for her, it still wasn't enough. As she gathered energy, Viper warned, Chroma manifestation heavily burdened their bodies. Moments later, she attacked again. Relentless strikes rained down on Gale and Ellie. Viper declared these tricks would never stop her. Once their energy ran out, death awaited. Gale was reaching his limit. His color energy drained rapidly. He could barely stand. Ellie fared no better, forcing herself to fight despite the strain. Viper grew only more bored watching them struggle. She launched another deadly attack, intending to end it all. The strike hit Gale and Ellie directly. Ellie lost hope. Her Chroma manifestation had mere seconds left. Then, as Viper appeared to finish them, her body suddenly froze. Dense black and golden energy erupted from Kay in the distance. Gale and Ellie immediately sighed in relief. Their job was done. Now it was Kay's turn. In an instant, Kay rushed Viper, striking with his new power. Viper blocked the barrage, staring in shock. She couldn't comprehend his power. A black and golden aura enveloped Kay, his eyes shining brightly. He had activated Chroma manifestation, black lightning. Dense energy gathered around his fist, growing brighter. Then the punch landed. A massive explosion shook the entire area. Shockwaves and debris blasted outward. Kay wasn't finished. He charged again, launching relentless attacks. Viper, however, evaded every single one. Her surprise was clear. Kay's sudden physical strength, now matching hers, was completely unexpected. But Viper soon noticed something crucial. Kay was pushing his body beyond its limits. She knew the black lightning form wouldn't last long, slowly draining him to collapse. Mid-battle, Viper briefly eyed her younger sister, still motionless in the distance. The sight irked her. She deemed the girl a coward. Had her sister helped earlier, this fight would be over. But Viper quickly dismissed the thought. Her goal remained, recover Stella's fragment and sever her connection to that person. She believed her wish would finally come true. Viper even admitted she was lucky Kay had arrived. To her, Kay was the perfect bait to control Emerald Master's power. She recalled Kay's near death at Sword Demon's hands. Foreseeing this moment, she intentionally let Kay live, awaiting her chance. Ultimately, she believed only she would obtain the key. But then, something unexpected occurred. A crimson energy suddenly erupted in the distance. A massive explosion lit the battlefield, releasing overwhelming pressure. Kay and Viper instantly turned, shocked. Viper even muttered, "Impossible!" Her eyes widened at the distant battle's outcome. She couldn't believe Red's fight with Sword Demon was already over. Amid blazing crimson energy, Red stood tall, radiating an intimidating aura. The winner was clear. Sword Demon was in miserable condition, barely alive. Painful groans escaped him. Red slowly walked forward. Simultaneously, Kay's body paled, his breathing grew heavy. Even at his limit, he found strength to ask about Red. Meanwhile, Viper exploded in rage. She called Sword Demon an insect, questioning if he deserved the name Black Hand. To her, he was useless. Even with a physical vessel, he failed to defeat Red. Viper continued to mock him as worthless trash, but Red didn't respond. He stepped from the sea of flames, standing calmly, holding the defeated Sword Demon's head. Kay's face paled, his body collapsing to the ground. His breathing ragged, exhaustion finally catching up. Meanwhile, Red and Viper faced each other. Kay knew he was moments from complete collapse, the line between life and death incredibly thin. When Red arrived, Kay finally realized his chroma manifestation energy was depleted. He was empty. Now everything rested on his teacher. Meanwhile, cold sweat beaded on Viper's temple. She silently cursed Sword Demon, regretting her trust. This swift defeat was unexpected. Fighting Red now was terrible. Her only thought, escape with her sister unharmed. As Red's group recovered and Ellie gave Kay some personal black ink, Viper quietly planned to use them as shields to escape. Her thoughts were suddenly interrupted. Red appeared directly behind her. His sharp gaze immediately noticed Viper searching for an exit. Without a word, Red launched a swift slash. Viper had no time to react. The attack struck her directly. A painful scream echoed as her body was torn apart by the strike. Kay and Ellie widened their eyes in shock. They couldn't believe Red had brought down a Black Hand with a single attack. Viper crashed to the ground, covered in wounds. She grimaced in pain as her regeneration began. Looking at Red, she realized her worst nightmare. His strength far surpassed hers. Her poison burned away before even reaching its target. This battle was completely against her. Red then raised his sword. He noted such power was impressive, even without chroma enhancement. He wondered if the ability came from an ancient relic. Red's attention shifted to the sword in his hand. Its previous owner had treated it roughly, yet the weapon remained in excellent condition. Sighing, Red remarked such use would eventually break the sword. To him, that was a real waste. Red asked Sword Demon for another sword. "Bring it out before death claims you," he mocked. "I could wield it far better than you. What's the point of a great weapon if you can't even swing it properly?" Sword Demon growled in frustration. Red switched swords. As expected, the weapon he'd used for years felt far more comfortable. Red sharply pointed his sword at Viper, his next target clear. Nearby, Viper's sister sat silently, watching. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Above all, she wanted the fight to end. She lowered her head, finally breaking down. Her mind replayed Viper's countless injuries protecting her. With a trembling voice, she begged them to stop hurting her sister. The next moment, a massive wave of poisonous energy erupted from her, sweeping the battlefield. Red immediately faced it. The wave hit him directly, but his aura completely blocked it. Meanwhile, Kay kept absorbing energy to recover, shielding Gale and Ellie from the spreading poison. Still, the sudden explosion caught him off guard. Poisonous mist filled the entire area. Viper's younger sister ran to her, crying. She reached out her hand, apologizing. Viper shouldn't have been injured like this, she felt. Tears streamed down her face. Knowing Viper hated seeing her hurt, she reassured her, "Don't worry, I'll heal you." The instant her hand touched Viper, a massive energy vortex erupted in the sky. It spun violently, shrinking into a single point. Red looked visibly annoyed. This was exactly why he disliked the Black Hand. They always possessed strange, unpredictable abilities. Soon, Viper's wounds began to heal. Simultaneously, her body slowly transformed. This was erosion amplification, awakened fusion form venom. Viper quietly laughed, examining her new body. She admitted she never intended to reveal her true form here, but Red had changed everything. As she finished speaking, Viper vanished. With overwhelming speed, she lunged, claws ready. Red instantly raised his sword, blocking. The collision unleashed a massive energy explosion, devastating the area. The shockwave swept over Kay, Gale, and Ellie. Viper attacked relentlessly. This time, even Red was pushed back. Red realized Viper's body had grown significantly stronger. Deadly poison also continuously leaked, spreading everywhere. Normally, anyone would be poisoned before getting close. Red also saw Kay still trying to protect the group remotely, but this clearly couldn't last. Viper could die at any moment. Red never expected protecting someone in this sit. Such a situation carried immense risk, yet he had no choice. Red decided to unleash his power, removing a restraint suppressing his strength. The chain released, a terrifying energy surge exploded outward. Kay, Gale, and Ellie immediately felt overwhelming heat. The temperature rose unbelievably. Witnessing that power, they wondered if this was still the Chroma they knew. The aura felt completely different. Red summoned his Chroma Mindscape manifestation, Extreme Blaze Brilliant Blade. His right hand and sword shone brightly. With a cold expression, Red stared at Viper. All his power poured out. This was the battle he truly waited for, but Viper suddenly went silent. She observed the transformation, then unexpectedly raised her hand. Then in a calm voice, she surrendered. Viper had no intention of continuing. Red was immediately stunned. Viper's sudden shift in attitude was jarring. She offered a faint smile, apologizing for the trouble. Then she asked if Red would let her go. Viper suggested Red was likely concerned about the students behind him. Continuing their fight would only waste time and energy for both sides. A far more urgent problem awaited them. Instead of a prolonged battle to the death, wouldn't it be wiser to tackle that giant monster first? After her words, Viper simply turned and walked away, considering the conversation settled. Before fully departing, she picked up Sword Demon's head, still weakly groaning. Viper couldn't believe he was alive. Most would have died. She called him a fool. He should never have challenged Red alone. The outcome was obvious. Still, he played an important role in her plan. That's why she decided to heal him. Viper knew her energy would be painful for Sword Demon during recovery. His survival depended entirely on his endurance. Viper then turned to Kay, calling out. She stared at him for a moment, then let out a small laugh. She'd remember his name, hoping they'd fight again someday. Kay simply watched in silence. With that, Viper turned and left. Kay and the others watched as her figure vanished into Blackland. With their enemy truly gone, Kay finally sighed in relief. They had survived. This battle was far more dangerous than expected. Kay remembered this was his first direct encounter with a Black Hand. Lord Luminous's warnings hadn't fully conveyed the threat then. Now he understood. Continuing into Blackland, they'd likely face foes like Viper again. The problem was far more serious than imagined. Red's sudden words interrupted his thoughts. Their battle wasn't over. The main target, that giant creature, was still alive, heading for Shining City. Red explained the Colorists were busy with the Black Hand. Only their team could stop it. Kay finally realized responsibility now fell on them. Red then looked at Kay, Gale, and Ellie. He asked if they could still fight. Red stated it would be a serious problem if they were already exhausted from the last battle. The three were stunned. Looking at the distant giant monster, they questioned Red's meaning. That thing was clearly on another level, but Red answered calmly. He said that threat couldn't even be called a black wave yet. He then told them to listen carefully. The real black wave was far more terrifying than anything they currently saw. Before Red could continue, a sudden lightning flash erupted from Shining City's border wall. Everyone turned in shock. The lightning became a gigantic energy pillar shooting directly at the monster. Upon impact, a massive explosion followed. The giant creature's body was instantly torn apart, leaving a huge hole. Kay, Gale, and Ellie stared in disbelief at the damage from a single attack. The monster let out a deafening roar of pain. But moments later, all signs of life vanished. Its enormous body lost strength, collapsing. Cheers erupted along the defensive line. Soldiers shouted excitedly as the giant monster fell. Amid the celebration stood a woman with a massive dropper, exhausted after her incredible attack. That's when Kay realized who did it. The one who brought down the giant creature with a single strike was Mary. The scene shifted to Shining City's heart, glowing buildings filling the skyline. Inside one, a giant tree radiated a sacred aura throughout the room. Its branches adorned with 7 or 8 colored crystals, glowing softly like stars. 3 figures stood silently beneath the tree. These weren't ordinary crystals. They were stellar fragments. One was the fragment Kay had found. The figure before him was Lord Luminous herself. After finishing her task, Lord Luminous slowly opened her eyes. She explained stellar fragments protected Shining City's people from black ash, falling from the Black Land, preventing corruption from spreading via those deadly particles. But outside, the giant creature was still alive. This meant the scene was set before the present moment. One of Lord Luminous' guards quickly reminded everyone not to lower their guard. The situation was too dangerous to take lightly. The 3 figures were Lord Luminous's personal protectors and guardians of the colorful palace, known as the 3 primaries. Only 2 had appeared. The third was yet to be seen. The green-haired primary looked disappointed. She'd rushed here, expecting the black wave, only to find a single giant creature. Once the monster was dealt with, they still needed to investigate its cause. The conversation shifted to Ignis, still fighting on the front lines. Primary Green complained Ignis still shouldered all burdens alone. He'd served as a colorist since Lumil's era, no longer young. It was time for him to rest. Primary Blue immediately interrupted, reminding her Ignis was their senior and should be addressed by his title, Red, not his real name. Lord Luminous then changed the subject, asking for an update on the Council's surveillance. The green-haired Primary reported increasing suspicious activity, including links between Council members and undercity criminals. Lord Luminous fell silent. She knew many still feared Kay's black color, a fear that blinded them to other possibilities. People only believed what they wanted. Yet her resolve remained firm. Whatever the sacrifice, she would protect the future she envisioned. Meanwhile, on the front lines, soldiers relentlessly hammered the giant creature. Blows landed on its massive body, yet results were barely visible. The monster pushed forward, showing no sign of stopping. Soldiers held their ground, gradually slowing its movement until it suddenly halted. They cheered, believing their attacks had worked. That hope died instantly. The creature opened its mouth wide, gathering black energy from every direction. Every soldier, Mary included, froze in fear, watching from afar. Such an attack would cause uncountable casualties. The destructive energy gathered. Commanders screamed retreat, but it was too late. The massive attack shot toward the army and city behind them. But right before impact, a blinding rainbow light split the sky. A massive rainbow barrier formed, completely stopping the monster's attack. Soldiers couldn't believe their eyes, some even thinking they were dead. It took a moment to realize their bodies were whole, unscratched. A commander shouted for the entire army to witness the miracle. It was Lord Luminous' blessing, the power that kept Shining City standing through 4 black waves. The city hadn't survived by luck. It survived due to unceasing protection against the Black Land. Soldiers' morale surged instantly. Formations reformed, cheers filled the battlefield. Mary watched silently from afar. Lord Luminous' power was undeniable, all fought with all their might to protect the city. Pioneers and frontline soldiers poured out their last strength. Seeing this, Mary couldn't just stand by. Her eyes fell on her dropper nearby. She grabbed it immediately. She connected it to the ink container on her back, gripping it tight. Determination filled her eyes as she channeled color into the weapon. Once energy gathered, she warned everyone to get clear. Mary knew she hadn't fully mastered this power. Anyone in its path couldn't be stopped. The weapon's tip grew denser, brighter with color. Even the giant sensed it, roaring a sky-shaking challenge, but Mary didn't back down. She realized the color gathered was far more than before, feeling she could push it further. One shot. Mary pushed her power to its absolute limit, then unleashed everything. A massive blast of light slammed into the giant creature. Silence fell. In a single attack, Mary took down the giant monster alone. Mary herself nearly collapsed from exhaustion, every bit of her color drained. Her body went weak, vision spinning. She realized pushing further could have made her colorless. She silently vowed to be more careful. Soldiers swarmed Mary, cheering excitedly. They hailed her a new hero for single-handedly destroying the monster that overwhelmed their army. Still catching her breath, Mary asked them to calm down and check the surroundings. Elsewhere, Camellia and the newly arrived colorist stared, stunned, at the giant creature's corpse. The red-eyed man looked confused as Raven explained her immediate rush after the emergency report. But before they could act, someone had already ended it. Camellia stared at the unmoving body, struggling to believe one colorist did this alone. Seeing everyone safe, Camellia felt a quiet wave of relief. Recruiting Mary into the Dawn Pioneering Corps was one of her best decisions. Cleanup began. Camellia praised those who fought to their limit. Red admitted they were lucky. The threat proved smaller than anticipated. Her uncle added the Black Hand group also pulled back, allowing faster control. With things settled, Camellia suddenly recalled her juniors, asking their whereabouts. Red confirmed Kay and the others were fine, but something bothered him. Before the incident ended, he'd seen the group follow Nero, as if the cat led them to something vital. Camellia noticed Red's hesitation, asking if something happened. Red merely shook his head. Even if they faced something, he trusted them to handle it. Mary had rejoined Kay's group by the giant creature's corpse nearby. Small creatures swarmed the body, Nero happily playing atop them. The adorable sight instantly drew the girls' attention. They wanted to join. Mary finally understood why Nero was so special. Just as Kay said, creatures kept appearing, gathering non-stop. Gale could only complain as their numbers grew. Kay explained the giant creature's corpse was a massive energy source, packed with raw, contaminated color crystals. Useless to humans, this energy drew small creatures to feast on the remains. Ellie listened, not understanding why they came. To her, the area was just leftover remains, nothing special. Kay clarified Nero led them here. Every time Nero pointed, something rare or worth seeing was found. This time, Kay sensed Nero was trying to show them something too. But as they spoke, something terrifying occurred. The giant creature, presumed dead, slowly opened its eyes. Everyone froze. Gale shrieked in panic, urging them to call Red or another colorist before it went berserk again. Yet before anyone could react, the creature slowly closed its eyes one last time. It seemed to have opened them just to see Nero, then finally let go. Gale remained anxious, fearing the monster's revival. But Nero had already moved on. The little cat meowed, pointing elsewhere, urging Kay to climb the giant creature. Kay followed without hesitation. Ellie panicked, trying to warn him, but Kay pressed on. Kay activated inverted vision. In the darkness, a glimmering light appeared, shining like a lone star amidst the thick black. Kay drew closer, finding a glowing object with a dark, swirling aura. He instantly knew this was the giant creature's core, its very life source. Incredibly rare, immensely valuable. Kay pressed his hand to the creature's body, confirming his suspicion. Then his expression shifted. He detected an energy trace from the monster, strangely familiar. Facing the pulsing core, Kay knew absorbing it was more than a simple color recharge. Something far bigger, more real, was about to unfold. Without hesitation, Kay activated absorption. Thick black energy erupted from his body, engulfing its core in darkness. Ellie and the others watched, stunned. Mary couldn't believe it. The giant creature's entire corpse was pulled in, completely devoured by Kay's black vortex. Camellia, Red, and the other pioneers stood frozen as the massive corpse vanished into the dark. Red let out a long sigh. This wasn't the first time Kay had done something beyond reason. Then something unexpected happened. Hundreds of colorful chromatic auras fell from the sky, scattering everywhere. The pioneers cheered with excitement. Pure, uncontaminated crystals scattered everywhere, rarely seen even on the official market. Now they lay freely before them. Camellia picked up a crystal, examining it. Her eyes widened in disbelief. This wasn't ordinary chromatic ore, but a top-tier color crystal, rarely seen on the market. Only then did she realize what truly happened. Kay had absorbed all contamination from the giant creature's core. Realizing he did it alone, Camellia immediately shouted for Red and her uncle to gather every scattered chromatic ore. All of it was theirs. Not a single piece could be left.